Oh, man, I tell you what. Oh, just when I thought that I wouldn't see the common sense guy today, he showed up. I'm so glad. We like to tease and joke and everything else and talk about it's all his fault. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not going to go so far as to say that the British and I would be lost without him. I don't think that would be the case. I don't think that I would be lost on my own. I don't think the British would be lost on his own. But we have come to depend on him and also enjoy his company so much that, and I was a little nervous. I'm glad you're here today, brother. And I tell you what, boys, I'm going to say this once. Everybody that's here now are very hardcore folks, and I would really appreciate if my co-hosts don't really make a big deal about it, after this. And like I said, this is for the people watching now. It is, and I want to say I already said it on Twitter, but here we go. It is my 24th wedding anniversary today. 24 years ago, 1993. We got married. Yeah, I'm being a dick, because if you just look in the title, you can see it says the Ogres 1993 to 2017. It's still going. So whatever. Go ahead, say whatever it is you want to say. Happy anniversary. Congratulations for getting a year older. Wow, you've got a lot of gray in your beard. Oh my goodness, you have man boobs. Well, Ogre, you have the furniture disease. Your chest dropped into your drawers. Ha ha ha. All that stuff. It's welcome. Just go ahead, pile it on. And as I said before, boys, I just don't understand the celebration of birthdays. I mean, up until a certain age, yeah. But once I get to be, for me, it was 21. That was a tough one for me. Was it 21? Don't congratulate me because I'm 1 year closer to the grave. How you boys doing today?
Not too bad. Not too bad at all.
Hanging on in there, I guess. Trying to get over all the traumatic Twitter harassment I'm receiving from various people.
Hey, now we agreed we weren't going to talk about that. I'm not mistaken. That was very slick the way you did that, but I think we agreed we weren't going to discuss that because I'm so much more versed on this topic than you are. Okay.
Whoever said I was talking about you?
Well, it's all about me, right? It's all about me.
Apparently.
Oh, what a disappointment it's not.
Welcome to the real world.
Welcome to the real world. Well, I guess we could have small talk as we go on about it. We're so good at it. I think I've been working on this thing here. Let me see if the British are going to mock me for my coughing out some marijuana. Let me see if I can do this right here. I got something going because I do believe we have a story from one of our esteemed hosts here. Let's check it out.
And today, there was a security guard that decided they were going to take over Tesco's. Now, if Ogre wouldn't mind popping it up, we can have a look at the story.
Yeah, it looks like right here it says that a security guard at Tesco, a security guard's Tesco reading roof protest ends after 21 hours. It says a sacked security guard's 21-hour protest in the roof space of a Tesco store has ended after he received a letter to review his dismissal. Adam Jeremiah climbed into the girders above the checkouts in Tesco Extra Reading. Reading, sorry. Yeah, I keep saying reading, right? Reading, thank you, sir. On Thursday evening, in a series of Facebook videos, the 46-year-old said he was sacked after being wrongly accused of stealing. In its letter, Tesco said evidence suggests Mr. Jemmy, this person, may have suffered a significant injustice. The former guard was led out of the store by police shortly after 1500 BST. I'm not sure what BST means, gentlemen.
British Standard Time.
Oh, British Standard Time. I'm used to GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. Okay, so he was arrested on suspicion of public order offenses, a Thames Valley police spokesperson said. I don't know. Do I need to read on more than that, common sense guy?
Yeah, you do, because there's a nice little bit of it that says that the reason why he got sacked is because he's linked to over 20 grand's worth of stuff going missing or being stolen. And that's the reason why he was presumed sacked.
Okay, Mr. Jeremiah ended the protest after his wife told him he had received a letter from the supermarket saying the circumstances of the situation that led to his dismissal and protest would be reviewed. It added no formal proceedings involving yourself have been instigated, which supports your view that you have been the subject of significant injustice. This person has earlier said he was stressed and angry and was protesting because Tesco ignored him. A Tesco spokesperson said that he had been aware of the incident.
TSS.
Yeah, TSS spokesperson has said he had been aware of the incident and had been assisting police in Tesco. Thames Valley Police is yet to respond to claims of this person's innocence. Where did I miss? I must have skipped the part where it said what he allegedly did. Shoppers have told him to abandon trolleys. So this guy is what they're alleging. Common sense, and I'll let you take it from here. Is that this person? He's robbed them. That's what it comes down to.
Well, yeah, basically, I must have picked the wrong story, unfortunately, because I had this as a video that I was going to do today, but unforeseen circumstances actually took me away from it. So I gave you the wrong link for the full story. But from my understanding, what another story was which is linked to this, and it is that he was linked to being able to take away 20 grand's worth of electrical equipment, and that's the reason why he was being sacked. It also doesn't let you know that he actually climbed into the roof of the Tesco's Extra as well. So he's on the girders and everything else like that, so nobody could get him down. So they actually had to evacuate the whole store because he was up in the rooftops.
So what you're saying is, when you say 20 grand for our American listeners, you're talking about 20,000 pounds British sterling. He stole
exactly. Yes.
Oh my goodness. That's something on the lines of $26,000.
Yep, that's about correct. Yeah.
And so, as far as you know, what is the injustice that he's been suffering here?
He says that he's actually been let go due to the fact that he says that he had no business actually being let go because he didn't have anything to do with the missing 20 grand that's happened, or 20 grand's worth of electrical equipment. I'm not privy to what actually happened because nothing's actually come out and said anything. But we have a whole old saying in the UK: things that fall off of a lorry normally don't get found.
They never get found.
So one would presume that would have something to do with what's happened at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to split time. It's that wonderful wife of mine. Yeah, so apparently it looks to me like another case of someone has done something that most of us would consider to be criminal and bad, and their response is injustice.
Well, that is, in fact, if it actually was that person. I mean, the suggestion of his appears to be, this had absolutely nothing to do with me. Why are you firing me?
Yeah, so, that's his objection. But from being in the fact of working in security, they generally don't get rid of you if you haven't done anything wrong, and that they have cameras everywhere.
Yes, but I mean, once he starts getting a letter saying there may have been a significant injustice, that starts backing up his case, doesn't it?
The actual letter says that they're going to look into it. The suggestion, Tesco said, evidence suggested Mr. Jeremiah may have had suffered a significant injustice.
Do you think maybe they just said that to get him out of the bleeding girders?
Yeah, I would presume that. I don't think that was a coincidence that the letter actually happened just as he was protesting. Mum always said, never believe anything in coincidences.
I would very much doubt it was a coincidence that he received a letter once he was protesting. But it's, how shall we say, it's an unusual thing for someone to do who was actually the wrongdoer. So I don't know. I think this may actually be perhaps somewhat over the top, but nonetheless, this may be the action by someone who was in fact innocently accused. I mean, I don't know that. Just my hunch would be this is not the way in which thieves normally react.
Well, I'm not 100% on that one. As I said, like yourself, I'm not 100% sure. But security firms generally don't get rid of people that are not nicking stuff, generally. I know a lot of security firms that have protected people that have been too hard on people when they're trying to get them out. I've known a lot of people that have actually been sacked for not paying for a sausage roll. So I'm being serious. I know a lot of people that used to get sacked because they used to go and get a sausage roll, but instead of queuing up, I'd go upstairs, they would eat it, and then bring the packet back down and then pay for it. So when it's not so busy.
Yep.
And they've actually got sacked for that. So there is, even though it was a silly reason, that it's still a reason. To me, it's just.
I am with you, but I perfectly understand what you mean. I'm just saying it. If a thief is found out, he usually doesn't try and draw yet more attention to himself. So right. I'm not sure that this could just be someone who actually was in fact innocent, although it just seems a little over the top.
Well, a good point's made though, Britt, and it goes like this. It's from Sunshine. At the very least, he's incompetent for letting 20,000 pounds sterling walk past him. Could we agree on that? I mean, he should be fired for that.
He is if it happened on his watch.
On his watch, yes. Okay, right. No, I can't. Yes, I'd have to agree with that. So in other words, I did speak before I thought about it. So maybe some of this was lost, but not on his shift. No, if they lost 20,000 pounds while he was working. And again, I'm not looking at the time frame either, if it's over a 5-10 year period, but if they lost 20,000 pounds in the last, month or two.
I mean, that's a lot of gear. Yes, you have to carry a lot of televisions out of the place in order to carry out 20,000 pounds worth. Yes.
Man. At least 40 of them, eh?
Me, it kind of reminds of a case in Spain. I mean, I have no idea how that case was ever resolved. But when the credit crunch hit, and for a while, basically the economy everywhere was teetering. Spain is very much one of those countries that once in a while gets hit by a crazy building boom, because they build so many holiday homes there. And what happened was that basically all the building companies basically just ceased operating. Pretty much from one day to the other. And I remember they had somewhere on television, I saw this example of a man who was a crane driver, who was owed something like 2 or 3 months pay. And he ended up staging a protest in which he basically stayed in his crane. And we're talking one of those, high, really tall cranes. He stayed in his crane demanding his money. So they couldn't dismantle the crane as long as he was in it. I've no idea.
Must have got a little ripe in there after a day or two, Brett. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can imagine, particularly under the Spanish sun.
Jeez.
But I have no idea how that eventually ended. But yes, it was just an interesting case of somebody just basically sitting there saying, "No, you will not. I want my money." And it kind of reminds me a bit of someone sitting in the girders of a Tesco's. But yeah, no, it's. I think what makes this one extraordinary is more the lengths, to which some people will go. But as you say, I mean, once you've got someone basically hanging in the girders of a building, I guess it makes you wonder, what would it take to make you end up in the girders of a building?
Me?
Well, anybody, all of us.
No, I get it, but me, quite a lot, Britisher. For me,
how far do you need to be pushed until you snap and end up eating a sandwich while sitting in the girders of the Tesco?
That's a good question. Well, it really is.
To me, it depends, because obviously you need to have a license in most countries to be able to do security, especially on retail side. So if he's just lost his license, which he would have done for theft, he will never be able to get a security license ever again. He will also never be able to get a proper any sort of job anywhere that's to do with anything to do with a DBS check, criminal record check, criminal background check. So he'll never be able to get a job properly anywhere. And because he's come from Gambia as well, does he have any sort of qualifications or GCSEs or anything else like that? Or was this just a case of him being put through on a Job Centre Plus sort of...
So effectively, this would be the only job he ever could possibly do, or else he will never get another one ever again.
Yes, possibly.
Yeah.
And that would be enough for me to climb a girder if I knew I couldn't get any other job and I couldn't do anything on benefits or anything else like that.
Well, I'm a little more British than you are, sir, because in my life I've had things happen. I mean, I've been sacked. I've quit jobs in very, flamboyant fashion. And what I've done every time is hang my head, gather my things, and leave as quickly as possible. A few of those.
I agree with you.
One time, I thought my life was going to be over. I thought that it was the end. I mean, I really did. I can think back. It was back when.
Yeah, but there's a difference between thinking it is the end. And I agree with you completely. I've been let go and I've been told I'm never going to be able to work in different places and things like that before. But it's a bit different where your sole career and your highest point, because being a security guard is sort of classified as middle management. It's not paid as middle management by any stretch of the imagination, but the qualifications you have to go through are classified as middle management. You have to go through your health and safety certificates. You have to go through combined and restraint. You have to do those certificates. You also have to do retail security and CCTV training as well. There's lots of different things that all add up to your security badges. But with that, if you lose your badge and then you also have a criminal record, it's very hard for you to even get a basic job, especially if, think about it for a second. If you've got on your record that you've nicked from a store while in a position of authority, that store that you're trying to work as a checkout person or somebody who does bagging or anything else like that is going to look at you and go, you have the potential to nick from us. We are not going to hire you.
Yeah, if you've
it's a bit different from being sacked to having a criminal record.
Yeah,
though I have sent you a Twitter message, Ogre, because I can't send you the picture, and it does say he was. I can prove that it says that he's tried to nick 20 grand's worth of things from the supermarket chain, and it wasn't Tesco's that sacked him. It was his Total Security Services security company that let him go.
No, if you've stolen from the company that employed you, it better be, $1 million or $2 million from Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
Rather than if you're actually your everyday kind of guy. Because like that, you'll more than likely get away from it and be employed by the White House. But if you're if you're just basically a security guard, you're more than likely doomed for life. Yes.
Yeah, well, like you said, if you steal from Golden State, you're more than likely end up in some cabinet position in Donald Trump's White House. That does seem to be the way of it. But so this here, it was just sent across to me. It says shoppers. I can see your tabs. You've got our tab open there. It says the Ogres. That's so cool. It says shoppers had been told to abandon their trolleys and leave the store as this guy climbed to the roof with police confirming they have received reports concerning the welfare of a man. He claimed that he was falsely accused of stealing electrical goods worth 20,000 pounds. Man, that number just keeps hitting me home, boys. That's a lot of money. Worth 20,000 pounds by the supermarket chain, which led to his sacking by security firm Total Security Services. That's why you corrected me whenever because it's TSS. The father of two has spent the past 6 months staging a one-man protest outside the Portman Road store with banners. This particular gentleman, we'll call him Jam. I'm not sure how to say his name. Originally from Gambia, said that he had not slept and barely eaten since the protest started at 1800 Greenwich Mean Time on Thursday, and that he would only come down if Tesco issued an apology. Well, I would be. Listen, folks. Listen, because I'm one of common sense to really put a cherry on this. I have a feeling he's got an opinion. Oh my goodness, he's got an opinion, guarantee. So. If I just got busted stealing 24,000 quid, you know what? I wouldn't be able to eat either. I'd be thinking about all the years I'd have to do breaking rocks in the chain gang, and I don't know if food would sound too good. I'd probably lose a little weight. So is it at the point now where we're supposed to feel bad? What, because he's a Gambian?
No. I mean, I to be honest, this only convinces me. Convince is the wrong word, but this actually only makes me sympathize with his cause more, because it sounds as if he has already been protesting his innocence for 6 months with placards outside the shop. that would suggest that this is someone who is fairly determined to clear his name. So I just don't think that if he is actually the criminal, that this is likely.
Well, to play devil's advocate too, it seems like 6 months would be enough for them to mount, a prosecution. This is very confusing to me. Go ahead, Britt. I shouldn't have cut you off because that's when you say that, I wasn't looking at that like that. 6 months.
Staged that protest for 6 months outside the store, and then eventually, obviously, when he realized he wasn't getting anywhere with that protest, he took it to, pun intended, a higher level. It does almost strike me as if he was feeling, look, I'm protesting here. Surely by now somebody ought to take note of the fact that I really didn't do this. And then eventually when he just realized I'm just being completely ignored, then he decided to do something that would catch their attention. I mean, none of us can know whether he did this or not. But to be honest, this just doesn't strike me like the action of somebody who actually was involved in the thievery. I could be completely wrong. I will grant you that. But it just, to me, this looks like someone who more than likely did feel he was being, innocently accused.
I kind of have to completely disagree with you on that one.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You get a wrap up to this, and we'll move on to something else. But I get your point, Brett, but I want to hear what. Let me say this really quick, Common Sense, before you go off. I got to agree with Common Sense Britisher and say, if he didn't steal it, 20,000 pounds walked out the door while he was on guard. He's fired. That would be the end for me.
Yeah.
Sorry, Common Sense.
No, that's fine. When I was growing up, I grew up on a big, massive council estate. So lots of flats, lots of masonettes, lots of small little houses all together. And I knew quite a lot of bad people. I knew quite a lot of good people, so on and so forth, like everybody. I didn't get on with everybody, as most people didn't. But as soon as I became a security guard, everybody wanted to be my friend. Now, that's not because I'm big and strong or anything else like that, but that's because I had access to different places where I went. I had access to construction sites, so copper wiring. I had access to shops overnight, obviously quite easily to do different stuff. I had been approached 5 times while I was living down south by people I knew and a couple of people I didn't know by association, by saying, if we were able to come to your place of work, if you told us where you worked, would we be able to rough you up a little bit, take some of the stuff, and then we'll give you some of the money out of it. We'll give you 2-3 grand out of it. And I'm not a fucking idiot. Sorry to swear, but I'm not an idiot. I'm not getting roughed up and losing my job and my livelihood for 2 to 3 grand.
No.
Some people, on the other hand, might see it as a very, very convenient way of making an extra 2 to 3 grand.
Well, I never thought about that. So the fact that the neighborhood you came from, when you became a security guard, you were approached 5 different occasions by people saying, hey, we want to be your buddy because we want to come and rob this place?
Yes. Yes.
I didn't really think about it. I mean, that would be a lot of pressure. One thing for sure, gentlemen, I do believe we all 3 agree on this one. This makes a good case for one thing for sure. Pay your security guards well. I mean, honest to goodness, if they made $60 an hour, and every company that hires a security guard can afford it. I know everybody, you say a number like that, everybody's like, well, $60 an hour, that's not really a lot of money to a corporation. Pay him $60 an hour. Then he's going to say, do I really want to lose this job making $600 every 10-hour shift I work at night? And the answer would be no. But instead, what they do is like poor old Count Dankula, man. Every time I shoehorn him in here, every time I put him in the conversation, right, Brett? If I could speak. I mean, he's out there all night long, man. He used to send like little videos of like bugs flying and stuff, and they paid him minimum wage. I mean, they're lucky he's an honest guy, right? They should pay him more.
No,
I get no agreements with that one.
No, I agree with you. I mean, that's what makes it so. Like for myself, I'm quite lucky. I was brought up with some very, very strong-willed parents who instilled some really good character into me. But even then, when sometimes I was thinking, or I could do with an extra grand, or I could do with an extra £2,000. Oh, I can take a punch to her face, or get tied up, or whatever. I could do it. So even with myself, it was a case of I thought about it, thinking that it could happen. It all depends on your instance of how much you're actually getting paid. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? You will think about it. Just think about putting yourself in that type of position, for instance. You're not getting paid that much. It's a position where you might be able to get something and it's not going to physically hurt anybody, especially if you're on a construction site, for instance. It's not going to hurt anybody.
Boys. Yeah, I just got to, I mean, you know, so we didn't start the, I'm just flabbergasted. We did start the super chat. Our first super chatter was Will Fisher. And if you boys just look over there in the side chat, you will see that Captain Colepile very benevolently just gave us $10 bloody. I don't know what else to say. He says shekels for the Uden. Happy anniversary, Hillbilly. Thank you so much, Captain Colepile. This will go into the kitty, whatever that kitty may be, every month, and the Britisher will dole it out. We all surely appreciate that. That will be the one downfall of Super Chat, boys, is whenever anybody gives us bloody 10 quid, I mean, you gotta stop and say, hey, wow, look at that, right? I mean, you gotta do that. So thanks a lot, Captain Colepile. We really appreciate it. We don't mean to impose on anybody. And one more thing before I move on, I won't say this every time, but I'm going to say it right now. Don't give us anything unless you can afford it. I mean, come on. We're not asking anybody to dig in. We're not doing the telethon, Jerry's Kids. We're not PBS doing anything like that. It's not like that. It's just if you got a little bit extra and you would like to hear, see something happen here, get a little bit, that's fine. Because look, I'm stammering, boys, because it's hard for me to accept money. This is not the easiest thing I've ever done. And I want to say it again, now that the British is right here and can call me a liar if this doesn't come out to be true. All of this, every month, will get transferred to the Britisher, and he will dole it out as necessary amongst us three as the need arises. So once again, thank you, Captain Colepile. We'll try to get back to the news now. Thank you, boys, for allowing me to do that.
Well, you see, when it comes to Super Chat, is worth mentioning that, of course, Lionel, he frequently does Super Chat, and he picks up on what people are sort of giving him in opinions and whatever. But there is one among us who is so prominent that Lionel will in fact stop proceedings, whether this person has actually sent him any money or not, and will then go on at length talking about this particular person's contribution to his soliloquy for minutes. Even though nothing has even been contributed in the Super Chat. It shows how some of us are kind of, becoming virtual titans of the internet, that they're having such an effect on, major YouTube.
Okay, all right. The British, you know what I'm going to say right now. I'd rather be lucky than good. And it just so happened that day, because today I watch Lionel every day. It's religious for me. When he's doing his live stream, no matter what I'm doing, I'll come inside. When I see it on my phone, I sit down and watch it. And today I said several things, didn't take up. I just got really lucky, and I said something at the moment that he was probably already thinking about. Very kind of you, Brett. Way to make me embarrassed after we just get somebody to give us some money. Because I'm just like, in fact, I think I know we're all the same feeling about this. And we're not going to turn this into a why we're Super Chat and Britisher and Common Sense. We're not going to do that. But we're all the same. I mean, we're proud men. We don't believe in begging. That's why we definitely want to dance for our dinner. We want to sing for our supper. And so that's what we're trying to do. And that said, boys, we better get back to it, or he might take his $10 back. So here we go. So I think the end result is they could pay this guy a little bit more, and other security guards. Maybe that would cut down a little bit on the thievery. Maybe that would cut, because surely if Common Sense was there in the council flats and somebody came up to him and said, hey, not only would he say no, but if he was even inclined to that, which obviously he's not, but even if he was inclined to that, if they were paying him $60 an hour, he would say, are you kidding me? No, I make more than you're talking about a day.
The example to use there, which perhaps kind of is perhaps more extreme than the security guard, would be if you have someone who works in the printing department of the Bank of England, who's actually printing the notes. He's actually printing the physical money. Would one think it wise to pay that person the minimum wage?
Definitely not.
Right. No, not wise.
So effectively, yes, if you have got people who have certain responsibilities, even though they perhaps don't need an enormous amount of academic qualification or whatever, but they do carry responsibilities that involve serious monetary value being involved, then more than likely they need to be paid accordingly, because otherwise you are almost sort of by omitting to pay them sufficiently, you are providing them with an incentive, which is perhaps not wise.
It's not wise at all. Not at all. I'm trying to think of when I could show this other thing off, Brett. And you know what? That was a really good point, Britisher. I have to say, it was worth what I'm about ready to do to you as you just did. That's good, right? Come on, that's funny. That's good.
Yes, the ogre is definitely engaged in showing off his latest technological abilities here.
Well, it only took me like 2 hours to figure out what it took Butter like 2 minutes to figure it out. So what I got,
you're already several hours ahead of me because I don't know how to do that.
Well, what it came down to, Britt, to get that clip, because I know I've got other things of yours, and I'm trying to get that Just Rule Britannia. I downloaded the week that was the one, not this one, but the one before, because it was less time and it was easier, faster to download. I downloaded that, then I clipped the front and the end off, and I looked at which one was. They're pretty much both the same, but the front one, you won't be able to hear it this time, but I'll just show y'all. The front one, if I let it play on, well, you might be able to hear it through the microphone, but you won't hear it like you did the first time. If I let it play on, this one actually ends with boom. Yeah, the Britisher comes on and then disappears. So I did take the front one. Wow, oh my gracious, have mercy on me, boys. I'm telling you, I'm going to be gracious, but I'm only going to assume that anyone that would do this can afford it. So, and we got to figure something out, gentlemen. We really do. That when this happens, we can like all have a signal, and then we could be like, we thank you, or whatever, all in unison, But horny hippos, holy crap. Just forked over 10 more quid to the Britishers' coffers. We sure appreciate it. I don't know what to say. I really don't. So I'm going to try to just pretend like this is something that happens to me every day and say, thank you very much. You know what, boys? I was looking at another story. If we haven't beaten this horse until it's just not wanting to run anymore. I really want to say more about horny hippos, but I've got to get used to just roll it on. I am right now, boys. My heart is a flutter and a flight. I really can't believe it. Does it not make you gentlemen feel good?
Up with an avatar name such as horny hippos.
It's a good one. It's a good one. It's memorable. It is memorable. But we'll figure it all out. And yeah, I'm telling you, my heart is just. You got to admit, gentlemen, that as we do this, and we'll become accustomed to it, but as we do this, it does feel good. It not only. I'm not trying to put any kind of more value on a monetary thank you, but anyone can say thank you. I know when it comes from Wood. I know when Wood says thank you. I see Wood's here every day. Wood says thank you much as horny hippos does.
Wood has just made a very, very good suggestion, something I think that Theresa May should take note of, and that is we should replace the Bank of England with the Bank of Britisher, and I can wholeheartedly second that. Yes, I would be very much in favour of taking over the Bank of England and name it after myself. Yes.
I would not be in favour of the Bank of Britisher.
Well,
I would. I'm totally in favour. I think we should replace our central bank here with the Bank of Britisher.
What would be the cause of your objection, common sense guy?
I do not know what in structure that you would be producing the money. Are we going back to gold standard, or are we still staying on the standard of the IOUs?
Well, we may base it not on gold, but on cats.
Well,
or some kind of commodity. Well, look now, boys, we're getting giddy. We're off topic. We'll do some giddy stuff later.
Yes,
we'll do some giddy stuff later. It does feel good, though. We can all agree on one thing, that I will tell everyone this because I'm not sure that my British friends will. We put a lot of work into this. some people have actually told us, and I tell you what, as good as Horny Hippo's 10 quid, as good as Common Sense 10 quid, as good as Will Fisher's, his was good too. I won't say the number right now. As good as his contribution was, some of the best compliments that we've ever gotten were, you know what, boys? I mean, because we get people on and we do a show map. We try to keep it. Is, you know what? You run a really professional show. I think above all, that's probably number one. But can we agree, boys, to get that kind of thanks for what we're doing? It does mean a lot.
It does. It really does. Yeah.
All right, thank you. We will try any more super chats. I'm not going to do this every time. So if I continue, what will happen is the next time somebody sends a super chat, this stream, another stream, they'll be like, well, you went on about Horny Hippo for 15 minutes and said the sunshine out of his butt, and all you did was read what I said. So we have to be careful. And you gentlemen, keep me honest, keep me safe.
Well, in all fairness, we have gone on about a man in the girders of Tesco for considerably longer.
Yeah, we did. All right, so we will continue on. That was an interesting story. I did notice this, though, boys. Seems like Halloween. I remember Halloween. And before I jump right in the story, I want to ask y'all a question. I do believe you're the youngest here by at least a decade, Common Sense guy. But was it the same when we were all young? Did you not go out on Halloween night with your bag and your outfit on, your costume on, and then you you look for the doors with the lights on, right? And you knock, trick or treat, knock on the thing, and then of course, old lady simpler, you soap her windows a little bit, and maybe you throw some toilet paper over a tree, but you pretty much cause no harm. You can wash the soap off with water. The toilet paper goes away with the first rain, and you get candy and go home. Is that how it was with you all?
Okay, now this is a litmus test. Be very careful how you answer this one, Common Sense.
Yeah, you knew that. Oh, well, I just said I grew up on a council estate, so we didn't use soap. We use a lot of other stuff.
So you burnt cars down.
What you are saying, therefore, is you did do Halloween.
I did not do Halloween the way that the ogre is describing, but
did you nonetheless mark it in some way or form?
Yes, we definitely marked it. We normally.
I am with Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry, I'm afraid. Halloween is American. It is not a British tradition. So any kids banging on doors with masks on, wanting. And this is the really tragic thing here in Britain. They don't want sweets; they want money. You just sort of think, no, I'm sorry, but you seem to be misguided. You are in the wrong country.
So you're kidding me? You don't? I'm that ignorant that you all don't celebrate Halloween like we do?
Well, it has since become so because basically commercialism has brought it across the Atlantic. But as far as the tradition goes, there is absolutely no tradition of trick-or-treating really in Britain.
You know how weird that is?
It's a completely modern phenomenon.
You know how weird that is? Because Samhain is what Halloween is. It's something called Samhain. And that comes from the Druids. That comes from Scotland, and right where a couple of the people I'm talking to right now.
I am familiar with the fact that it is an ancient thing that somehow got into America. But you effectively developed the tradition as it is. Huh. Over here, it wasn't really. If you go back 50 years, nobody was doing it. It's only really in recent times that it has begun over here, because all the Tesco's, when they've not got security guards in the girders, obviously realized that they could sell a lot of kids' costumes. So they began pushing it. But as such, there isn't really that isn't really sort of an old tradition that goes back, generations. It's something very recent that has been brought in really purely for commercial reasons.
I mean it because I know the roots. I have a degree in divinity, so I studied these things like Bacchanalia. You know what that is, Britain? Saturnalia. You know what that is? That's where we get Christmas from, is Saturnalia. Yep. And Bacchanalia just means it's a party for youth. Or excuse me, that's a party for drinking.
Yes.
Juvenalia is the other one I was looking for.
Yes.
But that means you dote on the children, and a kind of a combination of the Juvenalia and the Saturnalia became Christmas. Well, Samhain is this pagan holiday, and it just blows me away. I'm going to carry on with the story a little bit because we'll at least be able to get a little bit of some mileage out of it. But I tell you what, if you wake up every day and you don't waste your day by getting into pointless arguments with your British friend on Twitter, you could learn something every day. And today I learned something. I would have. If you would have.
You're British. Did you have a pointless argument with the ogre today?
Oh, it was some other guy.
I don't believe that I did. No, I believe some other British person might have had an argument with the ogre today.
One of these days we're going to do that. People will be like, because I was asked yesterday before I go right into this story, am I going to quit YouTube? And I was like, it was in a private. I won't even say who asked me. I was like, quit YouTube? No, I'm not quitting YouTube. Well, that's what I've heard, and you can guess the crowd that said it. And then I was like, they said quit? And then this was the response. Why, yes, they said that because of a Twitter spat, you had a falling out with a Britisher and you were so distraught you couldn't carry on. I said,
they obviously don't watch the very often, then, do they?
I was like, and of course, my answer was, well, I don't know what I would do if that, but that's just not the way. I don't know where you got that from. So there you go, Brett.
I've had it. I've had enough. Goodbye.
Oh, Lord, it's over. It's over. It's all over. I'm going to refund your money, Captain Copile. Already up where it's over. No, it's just, I think it's hilarious. But it just goes to show you because we joke a lot about it. But you tell me, people are going to think we're serious. Yes, of course, we're serious about our arguments, but the gist of what we're saying is
you were just waiting until you got to 1,000 subscribers, and then you decided that's it. I've had enough now. I'm packing in.
Yeah, I don't need you anymore, mate. I'm gonna have to carry on now without you much. I'm gonna pull a hard bastard. Did I just say that out loud? Somebody questioned. Look, I will talk about that later off air. I've really got to get on this story now. Now I'm so giddy. I'm getting into personal things that I should not air or talk about online. So hey, look, I did notice that us Americans, and you'd even mentioned, me so well, Brett, a bit of Fry and Laurie, you know how much I love those boys. So here in America, we do this weird thing. And when I was a kid, I loved to go as a hobo. I would dress up like I would put on white face clown makeup. I actually was a clown, Kissy the clown. I have to pick out some pictures. I was a clown at one time. That's how weird I was when I was a kid. And, we'd go, in school, I remember, now I went to a private school. But it would go one class at a time, and every class would leave and go on a parade. We'd walk through every classroom, every room, where there were people, into the principal's office. We'd walk through everywhere, and we'd, I memorized this one year. Everybody knows that little tune. I memorized that when I was like 7, 8 years old because I went as a hobo and I wanted to whistle that little I'm trucking down the highway, leaving everything behind tune. And not only, of course, and then after school, man, the sun would start to set and it was on. All of us little heathens. Yeah, we'll talk about it in a second. They're really trying to just break concentration. We'll get to it. All of us little heathens, we'd wait. The sun would start to set. There we'd go, man. Boom. And we didn't do anything terrible, but we would eat your cucumbers and your tomatoes in your garden. We would maybe soap a window. We'd definitely knock on your door and say trick or treat. And slowly but surely, this beautiful thing, and boys, I'm getting a little giddy and getting a little long-winded. So if I do that, somebody mute me. I need to wrap it up. It's gone from that to last year. And someone tell me in the chat, last year, I thought it was Alicia Silverstone, went out to a Halloween party dressed as a squaw with their boyfriend dressed as a brave, and they got cultural appropriations called out on them. And they were like, oh, we're so sorry. We didn't think about it, but we were going as an Indian. And of course, that's so horrible. It's red face. It's just like yellow face or black. It's such a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. Now, boys, this is being stolen. All of our tradition are being stolen from us. Now, what's next? This is next. Dressing as a clown for Halloween, ? These Florida cops say you're risking your life. And yes, they have a warning. As Halloween nears, many are considering clown pranks for Fright Night fun. At least one sheriff's office in the same state says don't even think of playing a creepy clown if your aim is mischief. Volusia County Sheriff's Office issued a stern warning on its Facebook page Tuesday afternoon. And so it's gotten to this. They're going to, and there's more here, boys, but I want to cut you loose. And my goodness, before I do, people are just going to pile on, and I love you all for it. Before I do, Seamus, unbelievable, boys. Britisher, please, I've got to impose on you, sir. Would you please give Seamus, well, now DNK. I don't know what that means. I just see a 20, so that could be like 20 cents. Would you, so let me do this. Would you please give Jay Sodrock a nice shout out for his $10 contribution, Britisher?
Well, JJ Soda Rock, I believe it is. Thank you very much for your $10 contribution. It's much appreciated.
There you go. And that's as good as it gets. And next one, I'll just say, right here we got from Seamus. Says, this is a financial troll since Ogre has to figure out the worth of the... yeah. I didn't even read it, Britt. I was looking at it, and I'm thinking what I was going to have to give a shout out to him. So, common sense guy, before we move on, and we got to figure out a better way than what I'm doing right now because this is awkward, stupid. But I'm going to carry on now because I already started. So, common sense guy, if you got a shout out for Seamus, we'll move on.
Yeah, thank you very much for donating the Danish krone. Thank you very much, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, we sure do. So, do you now, gentlemen? To get back on topic, and again, folks, I don't care at this point if you donate $100. I do care. We all care. We all care. But if I mean, it's obvious now that I don't know how. Britisher, there's so many things I don't understand how Lionel Nation does it. This is one of them. I watched today. He made about $450 today. I didn't write down. I think next time I'm gonna write it down. And the way he graciously does this thing. It's unreal. So I will try to watch more. I will take notes when I'm in my master's class with this man. I'm so far off now, British. I'm about ready to just hand it over to you. I mean, this really is coming as a shock to me, and I'm overwhelmed with gratitude for what just happened. So we're being told we can't culturally appropriate. Not only that, British, Halloween is so scary and so wrong and so bad, and we need to, you know what? Stranger danger. Let's just stay in the house and quit celebrating all holidays.
Well, I think
I've got a point to this. I don't understand with obviously the new film coming out. Well, let's come out. Sorry, it and obviously being remastered and everything else like that. Surely that's the reason why everybody wants to dress as a clown, because all they're doing is obviously following what the social norms would be. And like when Jason used to be put out, and like when Freddy used to be put out, when those were all brought out near Halloween, what was the main physical costume going to be? It was the one that was literally the newest movie that was coming out, the newest scary movie that come out, and that's the reason why most people want to dress up as a clown, as well as obviously the other bits that were around, obviously during earlier on this year, where everybody was pretending to be clowns for no reason.
But as I say, hasn't there been a kind of a spate of grown-ups dressing as creepy clowns in order to scare kids?
Yeah, well, no, they were trying to scare everybody. They were trying to pretend that they were
in Britain of it happening.
They were trying to pretend that they were going to pretend to kill people. They went onto people's porches and stabbed pumpkins and things like that. It was all and chase after people in cars and things like that. There's loads of things on that. But that's slightly different than dressing up as them on Halloween, because everybody's going to be doing it anyway. Those were just on days where they were just dressing up to scare people.
But don't we think that those two stories are related? Is not that the reason why people are being advised don't dress up as clowns?
Well, no, the reason why I brought it up is because it's the fact that if you have a scary movie that's come out, generally when it's so close to Halloween, you generally want to dress up as that movie because it's the first thing that pops into your head.
Right.
No, I perfectly understand. I perfectly understand the reasoning of those people who would dress up as clowns. What I'm trying to establish is what is the reasoning of the police saying.
Well, Britisher, there was a phenomenon.
I'm wondering, is it not related to that phenomenon, to use your word, of people, basically scaring the bejeebers out of kids by dressing up as clowns and acting weird?
Well, it wasn't just kids. I think about 2-3 years ago here in the mostly in the South, the Southeast, you know, this was the South, not the Southwest, there was a lot of people dressing up as creepy clowns. They would be standing there with a hatchet at the end of a road with a light above them. I mean, this was going all over, and they were like doing these weird things where I'm sure there were people that were a part of it, where they were like chopping heads and all this stuff. And so, yeah, they're trying to equate it, but Britt, common sense guy, the fear mongering, it's never ending. I can't, even Tucker Carlson has fallen into it, man. I feel like my last guy I go to is falling in, because every other word out of his mouth, like the British was calling me on today, was hate or fear or, oh, I'm terrified. And it's like, can't we just have one newscast where hate, fear, and terrified is never said?
No, because then it won't be news.
In all fairness, Tucker Carlson is always at his best when he doesn't say anything. When he gives that absolutely consternated look. That is Tucker Carlson at his best. When
Did you say consternated or constipated? Because I couldn't quite hear it.
It's just when he allows the other person to talk, and he just basically looks into the camera with this look of suffering on his face.
So constipation then?
Yeah, it must be constipated that I said.
You can't.
I said consternated, but
we have to agree on one thing. He has to practice that, because I'm trying it now and I've tried it before. That look he pulls, I call it, Mrs. Ogre and I call it the Muppet face. He looks like Bert, Ernie. He looks like one of those from Sesame Street when he does.
He must basically have managed to perfect that expression that I had on my face when I read that Trudeau article for the first time that I went through in the week that was, and which I would imagine quite a few people had on their faces when I was actually reading parts of that Trudeau article to the people, because that was something else. And I think when you hear something like that, when you hear something that is just out of this world when it comes to just sheer stupidity, that's when you have that face. And I think he has managed to kind of just perfect it, and now he uses it. He has to basically borrow a word from everyone's favorite unsuccessful candidate, Hillary Clinton. He has managed to weaponize that particular expression.
Yeah. He has weaponized it. That is a fact. I mean, because when he pulls that out, in fact, if you watch the guy, it's a very subtle. There's very subtle changes he'll do with that. I'm not even kidding, even though it's funny to me. There's very subtle changes he does with his brow and his eyes and his mouth. Very subtle. He's always open-mouthed at that point. Yes. If you notice, it's always open-mouthed.
Open-mouthed. Yes.
Sometimes it goes from just a wee bit like straight, from a wee bit downturned to straight, and then maybe a wee bit up, like a kind of a smile, and then his eyes kind of follow that, like a wee bit questioning or sad, and just in the middle, and a wee bit happy. He has got that down so much that when you're watching it, it forces you to have that feeling that he's trying to portray. It is amazing to me. And yes, you're right. I give it to you. Tucker Carlson's most powerful when he don't say it, when he does the Muppet face. And probably me too. I know what the boys are thinking. They're like, if you'd shut up, we'd get 5 more quid, you son of a bitch.
No, I think in that regard, I think Tucker Carlson has managed to kind of create a bit of a niche for himself, whereby he just brings in idiotic guests and then lets them dig a hole for themselves, while he just sits there and does his Muppet face, to use your expression.
Yeah.
Whereas, of course, the ultimate master of the interview for all British viewers out there must surely have been Jeremy Paxman. So much so that there was an expression among the politicians that when they were speaking of one of their colleagues having gotten it in the teeth by Jeremy Paxman, they referred to him as having been Paxoed.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because yes, he He single-handedly ruined the career of Michael Howard, who was the then Home Secretary, hoping to one day be Prime Minister.
And we're ever so thankful.
By literally asking him the question, and this is just for all of you out there who cringe when they hear the word literally. No, he did actually literally ask him the same question 15 times, realizing that the minister every single time was weaseling out, not answering with yes or no, but, well, you see, the real question is, well, you see, that's not the way to look at it. And he did that 15 times, eventually concluding, I don't think I'm going to get a straight answer out of you, am I? And it absolutely wrecked this particular politician. And they were all terrified of Jeremy Paxman.
Yeah, you turned me on to Paxman. I did not know who he was until you sent me a link to the very interview you're talking about. And boy, you got to give it to that man. He
was ruthless, and he was not just like that with Michael Howard. So this was not a matter of him being partisan. You could basically see that Paxman operated under the assumption that they're all liars, and I will basically reveal them to the audience. And
what do you mean the assumption?
Sorry.
What did you mean by the assumption that they're all liars?
Well, okay, let's just say the out-and-out knowledge. And basically, the BBC began deploying him like a nuclear warhead. As in, you can have an easy interview, and you can be interviewed by Kirsty Walk, or if you're being difficult, we can deploy Jeremy Paxman. So yes, when it comes to it, Tucker Carlson has perfected that particular thing. But when it comes to the killer interview, I'm still to see anybody who is the equal of Jeremy Paxman.
Well, something came up just now, Brett, and I don't know. Y'all may not agree with me, and I venerate this man. But Gavin McInnes, Tomahawk Tom, brings up a point. He had this. He has a lot of people on. He had Tucker Carlson on his show. He does it in black and white, and maybe Tomahawk will remind me the name of that show that he does. But he had this feminist on. He met her while she was sticking stickers, bumper stickers, on cars that weren't hers. This is something about check your white privilege. Please help out a black person in your community. And she was a feminist. And man, I tell you what. But you got to give it to Tucker Carlson, and that was just a good shout out, man. Tomahawk, he's a brilliant guy. I had to say something about that. But you got to give it to Tucker. Now the 15 of Paxman, that is not beat, but Tucker has a way of doing the Muppet face, and then he'll be like, well, now I'll ask you for the 4th time, what law could have been passed that would have stopped the Las Vegas shooter from killing those people? And it's like there's no answer, and then I had to pull that out, Brett. That was a stab at you. That was very.
When you mentioned Gavin McInnes, didn't he also do an interview once with one of your favorite YouTubers, Black Hitler?
Oh yeah.
In which I believe he also took him to the cleaners.
Now he was the moderator, but Ghazi Kudzu kept calling Gavin in. And finally, Gavin was like, I'm supposed to be the moderator, dude. Do you want to debate me? And I will say, even you, Brett, you would be one person that I would be ready. I wouldn't just wake up that morning and be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to debate the Britisher today. Ha, ha, ha. Go about. No, I would be studying that morning. Man, Britt, he's one of the only people that I would be not only studying, but a little bit nervous. That fucking Gavin McInnes is he has a freakishly good recall. And he's just very logical, not a lot of emotional shit coming from him. But yeah, that was wonderful. You got to give it. I'm glad you remembered that too. Because much as you turned me on to Paxman, I think I turned you on to that one. I sent that to you. It was like, look at this.
Yes, I think that came from you. Yes. Yeah.
Oh man, we were talking about clowns. So are they going to take everything away from us? Tell me something, boys, if you know of something. Tell me of and I'm sure you do. Tell me of a celebration that you do there, not locally, but as a country that we just don't do here.
I mean, obviously we have Guy Fawkes Night.
Right. Remember the 4th of November, whatever the date that is.
Fifth.
Yeah.
The 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot.
Yes. So obviously we have Guy Fawkes Night, which is relevant only really to Britain. Yes.
So what if they just said, now look, Guy Fawkes mask, you're culturally appropriating. I thought he was I used to think he was a Frenchman. He's not a Frenchman, Brett?
Well, I mean, he on all the sort of old drawings, it always says Guido Fawkes, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm assuming he was actually an Englishman.
Okay. All right.
But anything's possible. He was a Catholic, wasn't he?
Definitely a Catholic.
Common
yes.
sense.
Yeah, no, he was definitely Catholic, and it was to get rid of the Protestant government.
Boy, that's been a long-standing thing over there. Ever since that dog bit that the Pope's toe, man. I mean, King Henry VIII, he just wanted to get a bloody divorce. I mean, that's all he wanted. And so now we get the Anglican Church. That's the way it is.
Well, yes, you can get rather remarkable changes from small events, but one therefore needs to wonder whether those small events may not just be the catalyst that allow the big trend to effectively occur that would eventually occur anyway, if you know what I mean.
Very astute, because a lot of people overlook that too. They say, "Oh, this happened," but no, sometimes something took place because the moment was ripe.
Yeah, I mean, in that particular case, when it comes to breaking away from the papacy, that was more than likely going to happen sooner or later anyway. Whether it happened with that particular king,
What is that noise in the distance?
Oh, well, I believe it is the British fleet coming over the horizon.
Ah.
Oh, well. But no, where was I? Sorry, I was talking about Catholicism and Protestantism, and then I somehow got lost in the eternal tunes that are rule Britannia. Yes.
Hey, now look, we're going to get back on task now, folks, and I hope that everyone will forgive us. It is my anniversary. I know I said I wouldn't say it again, but I was just full of shit. I want everybody to know, man, I've been married 24 years to the same woman. She's had a boyfriend or two. I've had 50, 60 girlfriends. Still got a couple. And we live together. We love each other. We have our best interests in mind. Once in a while, one of her boyfriends will think that, but then they get kicked. I mean, it's all good. So whatever's happening out there, if you're married to somebody and you love them, and yes, that was a load of shit, everything I just said, but if you love them, you will take what comes with loving them. And sometimes it'll be wonderful. And if you're fortunate like me, some people have seen my wife. I'm not making it up. She's 5'3", weighs 110 pounds, has C cup boobies, beautiful strawberry blonde hair. She's a beautiful Scottish princess is what she is. And still is too. I mean, as I get old and my hair falls out, that's why I think Captain Copile was once saying, "Oh, you married way above you." I used to be beautiful, folks. I used to be beautiful. I'm not anymore. I'm under no illusions, but my wife still is. she's what I would call low mileage. I'm kind of high mileage. Because when it all comes off, it just looks like a train wreck. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. It's all good. So whatever it is, folks, as we segue into this next story, yeah, I think we're all little giddy boys, you got to admit.
Actually, I must just quickly interject. Just for a moment there, you just turned into Coach Red Pill.
Oh, good.
Well,
you said that
with your 50 ex-girlfriends and having 2 of them on the go currently.
Well, I really do.
All you need now is just to call them dogs.
But British are the
You're
only
halfway there, mate.
The difference between him and I is 2 things. A, I don't call them dogs, and B, you've actually seen the 18-year-old one. No, I'm not even joking. I don't care what anybody thinks. The fact of the matter is, it's never been hard for me to get girlfriends, ever. It's never been hard for me to get laid. It's definitely not because I'm beautiful. I'm not saying that's why. I think it may be because unlike my normal self with dudes, I like to listen to girls. So I'll ask them a question and then I'll listen. And then I pretend
you are sounding exactly the same as Coach Redpill.
Well, then I pretend that it's important to me, and then it just happens. And no.
Yeah,
And so let's leave it out. So if that does sound like I'm listening,
stop digging.
I'm not digging. Would you like me to pull up some pictures or give you email addresses for confirmation? I mean, I'm not Coach Red Pill. I just love beautiful women, and a lot of them like me back. I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm just saying. I will say this though, Britisher, common sense guy. What do I always say? I'd rather be lucky than good, boys. So whatever I could say for my reasons or my thing, I'm not giving anybody pickup advice or nothing because I don't know. I really don't. I don't know. There's been many a time when I've been making love with a beautiful woman, looking down, going, "How in the fuck did I get here?"
Okay, Don Juan.
Good. All right, let's move. Okay, now we're definitely moving on because I'm
due
no
to
Don.
inflationary terms, Don Juan isn't called Don Juan anymore. He's Don 2.
Well, I must be Don 1.
But let's move this along, shall we?
I'm giddy. I'm giddy right now. So we're gonna do that. Wounded casino security guard vanishes. The Las Vegas guy. I actually had this for those of you that can't see our show map. It said, "Jesus returns." Because for whatever reason, Americans don't call their children Jesus, and the British people don't call their children Jesus, but Mexicans, man, it's like every other dude is Jesus. That's Jesus. So apparently, this guy Jesus Campos, he just disappeared, and then reappeared. And where did he reappear? It was like a week. Where did he reappear? On the Ellen Show. I have one question for you boys, and I'm going to turn it over to you, and we'll move on. Who cares?
About what? Did he reappear?
Well,
or did he reappeared on the Ellen Show?
Okay, because I thought that would just trigger. So let me go to this, and I mean trigger a memory. Oh, good Lord, I can't believe I just said that. What I'm saying is, the timeline has changed. All these things are different. The FBI is next to Campos on this, and he's got a funny look on his face. Are we gonna, boys? I'm the only one here, common sense guy, a little bit on the train, but not quite like me. I'm the conspiracy theorist here. I'm the one yes, I'm the one that always questions
You wear the tinfoil hat well, sir.
Are we going to sit here, even that I'm in the group, are we going to sit here and say that this thing is some kind of conspiracy? That he disappeared for a week so that he could be re-educated by the FBI and they get to get the timeline down? Don't get me wrong. I think that's possible. But much like I would say about certain debates surrounding this, is this the time to start going, who cares? That's what I meant by who cares.
Well, I mean, first off, I prefer security guards to reappear on the Ellen Show rather than in the girders of a Tesco. But it's a kind of strange reemergence. I mean, was this person actually, this is from someone who doesn't know all the details. Was this person actually being sought by the police? What I mean is, were they looking for his version of what had occurred and no one could find him?
I don't think so. I mean, the police aren't saying that, no.
Okay. So
no.
Yes, it wasn't that it was some person with vital information.
Easy, boys. Now, because I want to hear what both of y'all said, so one of y'all start and then one of y'all finish.
I was going to say, just before we go any further, the reason why they were looking for him was because he was one of the only people that conflict the story of saying that there was 2 shooters on the 32nd floor or 34th floor.
Yeah, but let's not dismiss what the Britisher was saying, though, common sense guy. He was saying who was looking for him, right, Brett?
Yes.
And the cops weren't looking for him. I think they knew where he was. Look.
Okay.
The
officialdom basically wasn't looking for him.
No.
The media basically, because he had obviously made some sort of statement in public which conflicted with something, they basically wanted to know where he was.
What they wanted. Okay, Britisher, you're the most conservative among us. You are a security guard in a casino. You happen upon the largest mass shooting in your country and are in fact shot at the time, what does the next week of your life look like? Is your front door open? Do you have an arrow pointing to you to be like, press, I'm right here. I really want to. What is the next week of your life?
No, you may decide to take a week off. Yes. Perhaps even 2. Especially if you've been shot. So he was actually shot, was he?
Yeah, he was shot.
Yeah, he was only shot in the leg.
Only in the leg. Come on over, common sense. I'll
case,
shoot you only in the leg. We'll see how you feel about it.
In that case, I really don't think it would be that extraordinary that he would disappear off the radar for a bit.
That was the point of this whole story.
If nobody was, if nobody in officialdom was actually looking for him, then I don't really see anything suspicious in him not being available to the press. Because I don't really think that members of the public, and he is just a member of the public in that regard, that they have basically some sort of duty to be on call 24/7 for CNN and NBC. So I would say I don't see anything suspicious in that at all, I'm afraid.
Common sense?
Well, I see quite a lot of bits and pieces that could be construed as conspiracy theory on that aspect. As I said before, this comes to the point where this gentleman is supposed to have been one of the only people that was able to get near the room before the police were. And he was saying that he could hear 2 shots before he turned up on the Ellen DeGeneres show. He was one of the only people that was also saying that there was 2 people in rooms because the gentleman who bought the room bought 2 rooms and they were adjacent to each other and both windows were blown out, if I'm not mistaken.
Britisher, I'm not feeding into this. I'm not going to feed into it.
No.
I'm not going to, because he's going down my path. Because believe me, common sense, I think about all this stuff. Let's for 1 second. Oh, as much as I hate to, I can see it. Boy, I hope Lionel Nation don't watch this.
Can I just ask,
yes.
before you go ahead, can I just ask one vital question, which I think is important in this regard? Given that he reappeared on the Ellen show, did his story actually change substantially from what it was once he was on the Ellen show?
Yes.
No. Well, yes, and Britt, there was not only did it change. Let me show you this. I'm just going to show you this one scene here. There was this guy there with him, and I'm going to look at this, and I encourage you to watch this Ellen thing also if you get a chance, Britt and Common Sense Guy, so that we can really talk about this sometime next week, because there was this FBI guy with him on the Ellen show, this handler with him, and so not only did his story change, but and look, like I said, I don't want to go down that road. All I want to say is this before we move on in the next 10 minutes to our next story is it unusual? And I'm with the Britisher. If I was Jesus Compost, I would be freaking gone. First thing that would happen is, I don't know if he's got a lawyer. I got one. My lawyer would have called him that day, the Mandalay, and been like, really? My client expects 15 million, and he'd use a big number like that because we really only wanted 7. And for this, boom, or he's going to come out and say it's your fault and side with anybody because they're suing Mandalay Bay. And then, look, folks, Ellen wouldn't have got me this soon. I really need to leave it at that because all this stuff's got me giddy.
Do we actually know that the person who was with him was an FBI handler?
No. That was me repeating no way.
Okay, so this was just another person who was with him.
Yeah. Now I don't know. Maybe who I heard it from does have evidence that this is an FBI, and handler is even if it was an FBI person, British, or even from me, handler would be a very drastic.
But I mean, it would be if this is somebody who effectively accompanied him. It's a strange thing that they wouldn't just basically say, okay, you can come to the studio, but then eventually he appears on camera on his own. So is perhaps, if he is called Jesus Campos, is perhaps his English not that good and he wants a second person with him there to back him up if need be? Or
no, the person is definitely FBI. The human being is definitely an FBI individual, and Mr. Campos is in his English
explanation as to why that person was with him.
Britt, I haven't watched it. Look, for this, all I can do is tell you what I know.
All I can do is
I don't know.
ask what seem to me the obvious questions. I mean, I hate to just sort of put you on the spot.
Well, for these, I don't know.
You can't know everything. That's not what I'm pointing at. I just mean those would seem the obvious questions, because it would seem just to me as a an onlooker from the outside who basically hasn't really been following this story to any great detail, it would seem strange that a person would need someone else to come on with him if there wasn't a specific reason for it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm with the common sense guy and what his train of thought is. I just Britisher, if no one else, you have shown me one thing for sure. Don't jump on something right away. Let it, bring it in, imbibe that thing, ingest that, digest that, mull it over, consider it, ponder it in your pensive moments, and then come up with an idea. Don't just hear stuff. And so that's where I'm at with this. Yeah, the guy was definitely an FBI agent, but why is he there? Somebody's probably wants to kill this guy. And who else do you want next to you if you're this kind? And he may have asked for them.
I fully understand that he may need protection in that regard, but would you expect him to need protection in the closed environment of a TV studio?
No, it all stinks like fish, Britt. It's all the timeline has changed. Holy shit! I don't really want to go down this path right now.
Okay, go ahead, Constance.
One of my main theories on this, or one of my main questions, my main gripe, should I say, is obviously everybody's going, everybody wanted to take the time and speak to the media by themselves. But the media doesn't say that. The media says that he disappeared. That means the media didn't have a clue where he was. Now, going to the point of saying that the media know where somebody is and can't speak to somebody is completely different to the media saying that they've completely disappeared and they have no idea where they are. Because if he's an important member, they need to find out where he is. They would know where he is and keep on trying to pester him to talk. But they said they completely lost him. So I don't get where that was and where that is.
Well, I mean, can I just say, when it comes to the timelines changing, I'm perhaps a little less suspicious about that than some other people are. Because I just have the feeling that when something like this occurs, it's complete chaos. And I would almost be surprised if the first version to come out would actually be what eventually turns out to be the truth, just simply because it is that hard to piece these things together at times.
No, I agree with you. I agree.
The way the timeline changed. Yeah, go ahead, Colin.
Let me just go. I agree with you completely that sometimes it doesn't go that way. But you have to look at Sargon did an absolute amazing video. He hasn't compared if it is or it isn't, and if there isn't more shooters or if there isn't. But he did an amazing video where he was comparing different evidences. And he was saying that the police were saying that there was at least 2 to 3 shooters at the beginning when everything was happening. There was one shooting that was supposed to happen between, between 20 to 10 and 10 o'clock. And then there was another one at about 11:30 where there was still going on and there was still shooting going on.
Yeah.
But in a different area, like a mile down the road.
No, I mean, I've seen the Sargon video. I am familiar with that. Yes.
Yeah, but that timeline's now completely changed. They're now saying it was just one shooter and it was only at Mandalay Bay. Mm-hmm. Everybody else is completely and utterly wrong. The police were wrong. Everything else was completely wrong.
Well, I can hear him saying, yeah. So, Britt, you're saying that
having seen the video, yes, I understand. I understand what you're talking about. And some things don't necessarily chime completely. But in most of these things, you will never be able to completely tie a bow on it. But, for example, when the London Bridge attack happened here in the UK, when that happened in London, there was all sorts of news coming out about potential other attacks and whatever, and they pretty much put everything on lockdown. And it took quite some time before they eventually worked out what exactly had occurred and where. And even once the perpetrators were down, they were still they were still thinking that there might still be someone there, and the SAS was looking for people, and all sorts of things were going on. So when these kind of chaotic incidents occur, it very often takes quite some considerable time, and there is a lot of false information floating around, which doesn't necessarily mean that somebody is willfully misleading. It just, people can get it wrong when these incidents occur.
No, I agree with you. I completely agree. Even servicemen and everything else like that can strain under the strain of panic, so to speak. So I understand that. But even in Sargon's video, there was an independent woman that actually states in the video, no, there was one that's happened at Mandalay Bay. And then she goes, this is a completely separate matter. Watch how everybody starts running in and listen to the gunshots. And this is at about 11:30, almost 12 o'clock.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with that stampede that happened at a different hotel.
Yeah, but there's also gunshots as well, Britt. There's also gunshots as well.
Yes.
And that was at 12 o'clock. That's well past the time they did anything.
Takes some explaining, but we don't really know what it relates to. That's the problem.
Well, you don't need to know what it relates to. Same as I don't know what it relates to, but I can tell that there's a different shooter because at that point, the other bloke was shot dead. Before 12 o'clock, he was shot dead. Just before 12 o'clock, he was well and truly gone. So that had to be a different shooter. The just logic dictates that it has to be a different shooter.
Can I just interject something quickly?
Yeah, before I do, please.
And that is, looking at that article, I'm not sure if the person sitting next to Jesus Campos isn't building engineer Stephen Shook, because both of them, according to articles here, both of them were guests of Ellen DeGeneres, or DeGeneres, or whatever she's called.
Degenerate.
Because she appears to have, Stephen Campos and Mandalay building engineer Stephen Shook as guests.
That could, and so in other words, all my information be wrong.
That might explain why there's two people sitting there.
Well, and that would also, I've really got to look at this before I open up, because that would really make me look dumb. I have been told that the person sitting next to him on the white leather couch was an FBI agent. Probably. Now that you said it, though, Britt, it's probably not. It
could well be if these two people came in separately.
But right now I'm going to say it could well be not, too. I want to make that my last word on it. It could well not be. I don't know.
But I just thought I'd bring that up just in case we're kind of, putting out wrong information.
I know that we're not on the same page, Britt, for sure. I think the common sense guy and I are on the same page. I do not believe that my government has my best interest in mind.
Well, if I could just put it like this, I believe there are unanswered questions in this, but I think, and I think you two both are convinced there are unanswered questions in this.
For sure, yes.
But this is just it. I think we draw different conclusions from there being unanswered questions, and to my mind, I think that in most circumstances, you will always find that there is, how shall we say, sort of additional or superfluous or whatever information that somehow doesn't really fit the jigsaw puzzle. But you will more than likely never get an absolutely perfect fit in which you have the answers for everything in a situation like that. And therefore, I am perhaps a little more forgiving with there being things that I can't explain.
Yes.
Do you understand what I mean? I think it's we look at it from a different philosophical perspective when it comes to these things.
I'm not sure I can show this on air. Somebody sent me this thing and is adamant that I put it on air, but I'm not sure that I can even show this on air. That's a lot of hair there. Just call it page 3, but that's all you get. Thank you for the beautiful girl. Please, no nudie pictures. It's just a little, I don't know. I mean, it's cool and all, but the fact of the matter is, the British brought this to my attention months ago. As cool as we might think it is, us boys, when we put up pictures of good-looking young girls, that looks like Ellen Page. But in the end, there might be people watching that don't like it. So is that Ellen Page, Zero? Zero's the one that sent it, too. Is that Ellen Page? Good Lord. Why did he do that, Britt? Dude, you see, all she's got to do is
Just
send me
before
some
we
boobies,
start
and it's done. And she's gay and whatnot. She's so beautiful. Oh my good gracious.
Just before we start changing subjects and everything else like that, before we go on to this, I just have a quick question. Did you know that the American government has actually got documentations out at the moment from the Cuba crisis, where they were actually going to have people infiltrate and pretend that they're going to be Cuban terrorists and actually kill off a couple of people from bases and name it as friendly fire, and put people that are actually going in and pretend that they're going to blow up different stuff like that. And it's actually written down, and it was only disapproved because President Kennedy decided that it wasn't a good idea. But if he did sign off on it, they were going to do that as a false flag for Cuba.
Yeah.
I could imagine that something like that might have been hypothesized upon. How close they then ever really came to reality is another matter. But I could
That
well
Mr.
imagine
Dapperton did a
crisis-
video on it.
I could well imagine that during times of crisis they will go through the most impossible scenarios. Yeah,
But that's the thing; they weren't at crisis at that point. It was just before everything. They wanted to go to war. They wanted to go to war with Cuba beforehand, and they weren't actually at a crisis at that point.
well, I mean, when it comes to
It was
reasons,
just something to think about. That's all.
when it comes to reasons for war, yes, once in a while people end up dead. Yes.
Yeah, but this was all designed for the actual fact of actually killing their own members just to go to war with Cuba.
I'm fully familiar.
Yeah,
with
hang on.
that.
And he wasn't done with his point, but he just made me laugh so loud. What was that, Bert? So,
Well, no, I mean, we've got Hitler with his dead border guards and dead Polish soldiers that were false. We've got various scenarios in which wars were started with supposed victims of the enemy. So that in that regard, I could well imagine something like that to have been considered. But we never quite know, given that we don't really know what the procedures are. We don't really know whether it really was just down to the last call of the president, or if these things get battered about anyway, as potential actions. Because I can imagine that sort of in their little, sandcastle game plays, I could well imagine that they go through all sorts of, possibilities. So I'm not sure to what extent I would draw a hard and fast conclusion from something like that. But given that you mentioned these old stories, I think is it the 23rd or is it the 26th or something like that? That there is a deadline looming at which basically Donald Trump needs to sign the papers to basically keep the papers, to keep the data regarding the Kennedy assassination secret, or else it will automatically become public. So it'll be interesting to see whether we ever hear of any new papers having become public regarding the Kennedy assassination, or whether the fact that we don't hear about it means that Mr. Trump has signed some papers.
You're not asking me that, right? I mean, I was listening, but
no, it wasn't really a question. That was just sort of a statement, an out and out statement that apparently it is, I think, towards the end of this month that the papers would be due for publication. And it has been pointed out that the FBI and the CIA have been asked by the media whether they are seeking to have these papers kept secret or not, and they refuse to answer.
Yeah. Well, I might get a young lady to join us, boys. I mean, she just texted me back, and why, I don't know. Because maybe I'm trying to get the Brit to allow a female to come on once in a while. He's so patriarchal, and I agree with him. I mean, men are smarter. We're smarter. We got all the brains. We got all the brawn. We really don't need women except to procreate. That's the only thing we need them for.
I'm now the representative of the patriarchy, am I?
Indeed, Brit, apparently so.
If I am the representative of the patriarchy, then indeed the patriarchy is in trouble.
Well, I don't know about that. No, we could do a lot worse than have you as our representative.
If basically international manhood is dependent on me, then heaven help us all. But there we go. So anyway, where were we?
That was. I wish I could change my microphone faster, but you got to admit that was perfect timing.
Yes, that was well timed. I'll grant you that. Yes, it was. Literally, as I believe people caught, this was a laugh out loud moment on my part.
Yes. Yeah. I'm trying to get back with you on the Segway war we had last time.
I see. Yes, you still haven't forgiven me that, have you?
No. Well, I forgive, but I'm still. We got to keep it real, and keep it creative, and apparently people pay us to do this now, Britt. So we got to, be on our P's and Q's because we don't want to get fired, which means the money would dry up.
Otherwise, we will end up in the girders of YouTube's main building.
Oh dear.
Oh Lord, you got me. I feel like an old man. You made me laugh at the wrong moment, and I kind of something went down the wrong way. I started coughing there. But yes, we may end up at Google headquarters in the rafters, or out front for 6 months first, whatever. Yeah, that was great. That's good. Oh, and I don't know. I'm not hearing back from the young lady, so time will tell. We'll see what happens. Hopefully,
if we ever want to stage one of those protests, we've learned a lot by now. Just from watching various protests of Milo Yiannopoulos speeches and whatever, we can smear our faces in red paint. We can, we can set off sirens indoors. We can let off the fire alarms. In that regard, it's been fairly instructive watching them for the last year or so, hasn't it?
Very, very. Yeah, one should take notes when one does not know.
Yes, one should take notes on how to be an actual fascist when fighting fascism.
All right, boys. I think we not only beat this to death, I think we did good because it's tough, folks, and y'all don't hear the pre-shows. And my main thing is I wanted to talk about this, but not really talk about the shooting, and I think we did that pretty well. Even though we said there was conspiracy theories surrounding the time frame and everything else, I think that we did pretty well about doing that except for what I just did, right? Did I just ruin it? Well, anyway, we're not going to talk about the whole bad thing because you know what? People do bad stuff. A lot of the times, not some of the times, a lot of the times, most of the time, folks. There's no explanation. You don't get any closure. You don't get a nice, easy, fun answer. So we do have some other stories here, boys. I tell you, Seamus he direct messages me, and I was laughing earlier because of you and him, Brett. You both were getting me simultaneously. He's the one that gave us, what did he give us, 30 kroners? What were those, denaries?
No, it was 200 Danish kroner.
Kroner, yeah, kroner.
If I'm not mistaken, is somewhere above and beyond $30.
30 quid, yeah.
So that was quite a substantial, yes, and it was additionally, I believe it was a financial troll because he knew we would all be hitting the keyboards trying to find out first what a DKK was in the first place.
Oh, he said, in fact, because he is our highest donor right now, I'm just going to lay it out. I put, dude, that was badass. We thank you so much. And he said, I'm an oddball. I'm still laughing at that joke. Ha, ha, ha. And he put, and I enjoy the entertainment you provide. It's good. It's a good investment. And I said, thank you again. The Brit will stretch your money as far as it can go. And I wasn't lying about that, was I, Brit? We both, I know you very well. And he says, I now have an image in my head of you three in a strip joint and the Brit lecturing the strippers on her bad posture. That's a fact. I was listening to y'all and I read that. I was buckled over laughing because I could see it too. I could see the British being there. Well, madam, if you would only throw your shoulders back a wee bit, your bosoms would perk right up, wouldn't they, madam? Here's $1.
I was feeling like the what was it? Are either of you familiar with the movie King Ralph?
No, got me on that one.
No, it's a film with John Goodman, in which Goodman
Yes, I know.
comes to the heir to the throne of England.
Got it. Go ahead. Yes. No,
And
yes.
of course, there was an incident there where he obviously, having been a pianist in Las Vegas in the casinos, he was always around all the showgirls. So at some point, he actually ends up in a strip club in London. This is by the time he is actually the king, because he's decided he wants to have the weekend off, not quite understanding that it is a 24/7 job. And he ends up in the dressing room of the stripper who turns up on stage and then decides she can't do this. And if I remember rightly, there's one scene in which he basically stands there, and you know how John Goodman is built, and he basically lectures her on how to do the turn and the pop out with her hip, whilst demonstrating it himself with his rather, how shall we call it, voluminous frame, which is just a treat all of its own. But basically, yes, if an inadvertent member of the British family ends up in a strip club, they don't end up watching the strippers. They end up lecturing the strippers on how to do their dance moves correctly. Sorry, I've killed that one. I've beaten that one to death, haven't I? Sorry.
No, not at all.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
In fact, actually, that movie, I believe, was a flop. Because it
was a flop. It was very funny, though.
Because the British didn't seem to appreciate the angle regarding the royal family, which I didn't quite get because I thought it was funny. And at the same time, the Americans didn't seem to appreciate being the butts of many of the jokes for John Goodman being seen as the uncouth American, which again I didn't quite get because I thought it was a very, very funny film. My favorite moment in that movie is when they're actually looking for an heir, where they haven't discovered John Goodman yet, and they're frantically looking for an heir. And of course, the immortal Peter O'Toole, him of Lawrence of Arabia fame, he played the old gentleman who was in charge of trying to find the heir to the throne. And eventually one of his assistants comes in and goes, "Ah, we have found him, my lord, we have found him." He goes, "Oh, please, tell me everything about him." And at that moment, the assistant sort of halts a bit and goes, "Well, he has strengths and weaknesses, my lord." Okay. Well, you see, my lord, he's an American.
Yeah.
And at that moment, Peter O'Toole just looks at him with this frightful expression on his face and goes, "The strengths. Tell me the strengths."
Yeah. You got to give it to Peter O'Toole in that, yeah, because I misplaced the name of the movie, but I've seen it a couple times. And even though it was a box office flop, I love the flick. And you got to give it to Peter O'Toole. The way he does his eyes, you know, when he does his facial expressions are second to that. The strengths, please, sir. The strengths. Anyway, yeah, probably no one has heard of that. Oh no! By the way, the young lady, I won't mention her name, but the young lady that I asked to swing by the stream is with her boyfriend now, and because of my behest, she's going to give him a BJ. And I think that, you know, kudos to him, and I hope that I get a thank you for my efforts. Because I was like, well, if you're with him and you're too busy, why don't you give him a blowjob? And she said yes. So, you know, there you go. Sometimes the ogre does good. I would say that's a good deed. That's a good deed. That's definitely a good deed.
The ogre works in mysterious ways, I think, is the thing that springs to mind here. Yes.
I just realized I got this all set up now, and I've got two screens, and I was like, oh man, I didn't show that the DM, did I? Because I really did say that, and I don't want anybody to see who it was to. But anyway, yeah. So I'll tell you what, boys, it's time to move on. But once again, I kind of want to pause for a second to say, just once again, you know, it's hard for me to express what exactly this situation does for me, but it's good. It is a good thing. And you know what, fellas, man, you two are a gigantic part of it. It's just turned into such a cool happening. So I don't know. We got another story here. We got something that's not me gushing and trying to turn into some kind of feminist crybaby that's going to gush on about how cool my friends are. What is it? But I guess the question is, what's the story? Oh, it's my job. That's my job. So I thought, Common Sense Guy, I put it on there. I thought that you would love this. I already gave you an intro. You'll probably get it before this is over again once more. But did you see the, oh, whoops, shut up now. There's a video on this and started playing. I know y'all can't hear. I'm actually wearing my headphones, hoping for better sound today. It says Gates to Hell. This is a story out of the very reputable Express newspaper.
You say reputable.
Very reputable. Very second to none. They're outstanding in their honesty and reporting of true stories. And even though that's utter bollocks, it's the Express is they're putting out this story. Oh man, they're going to just keep. If anything, I should share this with you. If anything, this is the problem. As I was talking, this started playing again, and that is the problem with the Express. Is while I'm here, I'm going to have to keep remembering to pause this. But it says Gates to Hell: hundreds of ancient structures found in the edge of volcanoes in Saudi Arabia. And now I want to play it, and I can't. And can you see them all here, folks? Can you see that, Common Sense Guy? Can't you see all those structures? I don't see nothing. But apparently,
there definitely seems to be quite a lot of structures, actually.
Yep.
You've got one that's right in the middle. It's got almost a square and a line right through the middle of it. You've got one near the great, that one there. That's a nice big structure. There's one over by tracks over in the top middle, and you've got two over in the far left-hand corner. Yep, over here as well. You've got quite a few, to be fair. Well, there's quite a few there.
Is this kind of sort of satellite-derived archaeology? Because that looks very much to me like a satellite photo.
It is. It's a new form of archaeology developed by the Australians, believe it or not.
I think it was basically first sort of used in Egypt, where they found, lots and lots more structures that basically they had no idea were in existence prior to actually satellite photos revealing these shapes in the landscape, because something like that can be completely invisible if you're on ground level.
Yeah, obviously, like those things over in Peru.
Yeah. No, I mean, the ones in Peru, you would at least notice them being there, even if you wouldn't be able to sort of make out the shape.
Yeah.
But with some of these structures, which can kind of be hidden, by the underground, if you're at ground level, you wouldn't even notice they're there until you actually get a shot directly from above, which kind of shows you that there is definitely a distinct pattern there that can't be natural.
So are we talking about these ring things too? Boys, I don't have the Britishers like jumping on. I'm just going to listen for a minute before I put my
I wouldn't think those rings. I would think those kind of oblong shapes that you're seeing there are more. So
we're only talking about these. We're not talking about these things here. Or like, look at this phallic looking, almost, see that little vague thing there? We're not talking about any of these or these lines here. We're just talking about these that.
I think we're talking about them.
Well, okay. Then what are they? What could, structures? They look like something that maybe somebody walked a lot there. I don't know. What is it then?
Past. Common sense.
Well, I think if you put it back on the screen again for us, because I can't really see it too well. It looks like a couple of them look like they're going to be like a form of forts as a military bases, because you've got one that's in a pathway that looks like it would be a natural gate area. You've got another bit that's right next to it that looks like it could be a form of a military barracks. And you've got a couple of others that are back behind it as well.
Okay, so the military barracks. So point my arrow. Where are the military barracks? Where do you mean by that?
Move over to the left.
Okay.
Keep going to the left.
These?
I'd say you've got those two there, and if you move up a little bit where that white bit is on the corner there.
Oh, okay.
If you follow the line, there's another military barracks that looks like it's there.
Right here.
Well, that looks like it's like a tower, a small dwelling. But if you go down to the bottom,
right here.
Yes.
Okay. And look, boys, I had to invite Zero, boys. Just he promised me he wouldn't scream at us today. He's gonna be fine. I mean, I've got this crazy stuff up, and I kind of wanted, when I got on this, I kind of wanted to have him by. So if anybody to blame me. So what up, Zero? Is this? Did you see this, Zero? Cool. And if you did, let Common Sense Guy carry on. And is this anything? That's what I want to know.
Well, I think one of the problems we've got is scale. We can't really tell how large it is, given that we don't seem to have a sense of scale here.
Well, that's true. I didn't think about that. Because this is, what is this, a mountain range?
Just for additional information here, in the article it mentions Harat Kaibar, which seems to be that region. So I've just basically, Googled it, and Wikipedia says Harat Kaibar is a volcanic field located north of Medina in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
So that would suggest it would therefore at least be within reach, more than likely, of an old settlement that is known, because Medina is quite ancient.
Yeah,
very ancient.
To be fair, they're definitely all man-made because they're so.
I mean, I don't think y'all are really looking at the right side of it. Man-made, but man from when? Man, the antediluvian man that left Earth before the Great Deluge, and that is now probably watching over us from above and left a little bit of some trinkets here to help us onto our evolution.
That one I wouldn't know.
Or is
that
this
one I wouldn't know?
If that would be, as you would call, antediluvian man who could build spaceships,
yes,
then he would have got his lines straight.
He would have done, yes. Exactly.
Okay, now Zero, yell at him for that.
Yell at him for what? The fact that I think
I'm just teasing. I just want you to say something.
The fact that I think it's actually something from maybe Sumerian times or somewhere back in those days.
Yeah, help us out. What could it be?
Well, I'm not a history major or anything, but you think about it. We go through all the ages that we go through. Heck, they were finding stuff over in the Middle East long ago during Jesus's time that people thought, was way before, it could have been aliens or something. It was like, look, there were civilizations that were around long before the birth of Christ. Why wouldn't it be something like that? Not necessarily extraterrestrial in nature. That's why I said, well, could it be something like Sumerian or some ancient culture like that? I mean, that stuff is in the volcano, so it's going to last for a while. That's just my thought.
Well, it's the part time.
I've just had a look at this. I've just had another look. If you follow what we think is actually a mountain range, you have to remember this is supposed to be a volcanic ash area now. If you follow what looks like a mountain range, it is too wide in the bottom middle corner. It is too wide for a mountain range. It looks like it's an old riverbed. Because especially the way that it snakes around as well.
Right where I'm at right now, you're talking about.
Well, see, that would make sense because the landscapes do change over years. I mean, every time we have an earthquake in America or they have one over in Japan or whatever, it changes the landscape. So a building that was once there goes underground, and then years upon years later, people find it and say, oh, what's this? Well, it's what happened during this year because of an earthquake.
Oh, the idea of a riverbed is really intriguing me now because this does look like the flow of a riverbed.
But yeah, so couldn't that be a lava flow?
Yeah, very much could be a lava flow. There you go again.
Than a riverbed in Saudi Arabia, which isn't really known for its rivers.
Oh, but it hasn't always been a desert, Brett. I mean, it used to be a plush. It used to be a beautiful place. I mean, Saudi Arabia is very close to where Lot and Abraham were deciding where they wanted to go. And Lot was like, well, I'll go down here in Sodom and Gomorrah, and you go over there. And where Abraham actually went would be closer to Saudi Arabia. And it was back in them days, it was beautiful grazing pastures. So whatever it is, climate change, probably man-made back then even, it's changed things. But now that I got two thoughts in my head now. All I'm saying is I look at this, boys, and I'm not even going to joke. Even the skeptic, crazy mind of me looks at it and says, really? I mean, is there some, like the Brit said so poignantly, I mean, if this is some antediluvian spaceship builders, why aren't the lines straight? I mean, what is it? Is this has anybody ever heard of the sailing stones? Anybody know what they are?
Yeah, they're the stones that move in the desert without any aiding in the salt flats.
Yep, out here in America. Yep, out in the desert Southwest. You got it, Common Sense. Giant stones now. I mean, a lot of them are freaking 900, 1,000 pounds and more. and they leave these trails, and then they make right angles. And the best explanations to this day, don't get me wrong, they're still there. People watch them, and nobody apparently has been able to set up a camera. I don't know if it happens at night or what happens. They know one thing: people aren't doing it. And these stones, they move. The best explanation, as I said, I heard, was the wind blowing. But is it possible that what we're looking at here is, as much as it looks like there's some kind of design, is this possibly natural? That's what I'm trying to spit out.
Well, yeah, I was actually thinking about that. If I can interject here, you know how over in Egypt they always have, in that area they always have sandstorms. Would it not ever surprise anybody if once upon a time ago there was actually people that lived there and they either had all the vegetation eaten by the animals and it became desolate, or they got smacked around with quite a few sandstorms over a long-term period and they left? That's just me. I'm just questioning it.
No, I think that very much could be it. And who knows? It could be remnants of quarries, in other words. Or it could be,
when you're asking, could this be natural? I mean, my answer to that would be no. It doesn't really look as if this could be natural.
So you do not think there's any way this could be it. But let me do this. While you say that and explain why it couldn't be natural, I'll look up a picture of the sailing stones and see what you think about it.
Well, I mean, you just look at... Sorry, go ahead, Constance.
Okay. I was going to say, if you look at the actual picture in itself, if it's natural, then it would be side by side by side by side. These are put down on individual places, and they're all individual. And you've got some of them that have got 2 lines and things like that. Yeah, no, I see them. You've got some of them that have got lines all in together and everything else like that. But then most of them, they're not all integrating together. Like on these stones, as you said before, some of them have got right angles and things like that. I'll agree with you, yeah. But they're all moving in the same direction, and they've all got different points. They don't make... I can't.
Okay, all right. In fact, I'm glad I found this shot as I was bringing this up as a point, because it's really not a good point. Because when I look at this, what we see here, Britisher, it doesn't look... So what we're saying is this looks contrived, and this looks like the wind blew it around.
Exactly. The first one looks like it's made by design, where the ones that you've shown looks like it's natural. I believe it's a geologist that says something quite obvious. If anything looks like it's clear cut or got anything to do with right angles, it is nothing to do with nature. It is man-made.
Yeah. Well, and in psychology, we have something called the square Earth theory. And, you can show certain illusions to people that were raised in the Western culture and say, do you see the difference between these things? And they'll look, I mean, you and I and everyone here would look at it and go, oh, no, this. But if you take someone from, sub-Saharan Africa, from darkest Peru, where they live in round huts, they live in a round world where there's round doors and a round roof and round huts, round everything. No, the illusion doesn't work on them. And so what I'm trying to say is the more advanced a culture gets, the more they use these right angles, and we have the square Earth, for lack of a better explanation. I guess I can see this. I don't know, boys. As to me, this is the most when the Britishers listen to me going on about the Bilderbergers and daggone fractional reserve banking and central bank and all this stuff. That's how I feel right now when I look at this. You see what I mean? How he feels. He's like, really, Mr. Ogre, droning on about your Bosh again. Have you been on the sauce, sir? And I'm like, no, I'm not drunk. I'm just saying that maybe. And so that's how I feel when this is brought to me. It's like, well, even though it looks square, I'm with the Brit. This isn't square. It's like, I don't know. I don't know. Well, I don't want to believe it.
Put it like this. I don't really know what there is to believe. I mean, to me, it looks as if that is something man-made, but we have absolutely no idea what it was. Yeah. So, it's very difficult to comment on what seems to be a fairly, a remnant of something fairly primitive that we don't even know when it was made. I mean, one of the interesting things in this regard is it will more than likely prove very difficult to get the Saudi Arabians to allow any sort of excavation to take place, because they are not very keen on things being excavated. And there, how shall we say, there are also certain suspicions within the kind of, archaeological or historical community, so to speak, as to why the Saudi Arabians aren't too keen on it. And that is, they are very worried about modern science, so to speak, being able to basically prove a definite link regarding evolution in religion.
So you think that they're kind of getting freaked out about modern science being able to call shenanigans on some of their religious aspects and beliefs, as opposed to how things actually went about?
Yes, I mean, one knows that there has been some work in the past regarding various temples of Bel and related deities.
Right.
And
so it basically be
the one thing that they don't want to see actually established as any secure sort of fact is that
it's
their Allah may in fact actually be an evolution from something that previously was already adored in some other form as an ancient deity.
Right. So it's about pride and ego then.
Well, it would basically undermine their entire the entire idea of divine revelation. Because if it already existed before and then gradually became what it is now, then it can't have been revealed in some, in some kind of, I would almost use the word biblical moment, but that wouldn't really apply here, given that it would be the Quran. But
well, Quranic moment.
Yeah, but you understand what I mean. That yes. Some kind of great epic revelation to a prophet. That idea is somewhat undermined if the suggestion takes hold that in fact this particular deity seems to have gradually emerged from the worship of previous deities, so that there was actually an evolution involved rather than actually, some divine moment.
Oh. Yeah, and I don't know. We're going to beat this up maybe a little bit more. Gentlemen, I'm going to say it again. Britt's going to hate me. But by the way, before I do that, British, I got to do this. I love you, Britt. So anyway, that said, I don't know what I don't know what that's going to do, Captain Colepile, but you did pay us, so I guess I have my price. I have a firmer belief that whatever folks want to believe about, you couldn't have cut that stone in Mesoamerica, or there's no way that the Egyptians could have done that. This had to be aliens and this and that, and the intelligence, and they didn't have lasers and all this stuff. Everybody's heard it, right? What it comes down to me is no, I don't believe it. My crazy hypothesis is that I think that the intelligence has always been here. I think that there probably is life close to us. By close, I mean somewhere in another solar system close, not in our solar system close. So not close in our way of thinking, but close as in our, right in our vicinity, Alpha Centauri, vicinity. But they came from here. That's what I firmly believe. I don't believe that because I dreamt it one night. I don't believe it because Tesla, I had it in a vision. I believe it because of what I've seen in my life. I have a hard time believing what some Christians believe, but I do believe there is a power there somewhere. So there. Yes, sir.
Ogre, you know how you've
I know you love me too.
You know how you have perfected, playing in those little clips so that we can now have our own little fanfare. Yes, I think you need a separate fanfare for certain occasions, and I think you can imagine why I bring this up now. But once in a while, you should be able to hit that button, and it should play in the intro music to the Twilight Zone.
Well. Yeah, I thought you were going to say Dark Shadows or something, but Twilight Zone is apt enough. So what you're telling me is it's time to move on to our next story. because look, we could talk about this stuff, and I just wanted to prove that I was as crazy as y'all. Because look, what those are, we don't know. It could be like Zero saying in the side check, it's the ancient Sumerians. It could have been some kind of way to save water. It could have been something. It could have been some kind of prehistoric metal that was so badass that the lava flowing over it left those indentations because of the way it was consumed. I have no idea. I don't know, because none of us were there. But I don't. When I see that stuff, it's like human beings. We really want to find links, don't we? That we want to find.
That's what we're designed to do. We are effectively designed to find patterns in things.
Yeah. That's why we rule, right? Because we find them patterns.
But once in a while, we have to realize that sometimes some patterns can also just be random.
Oh, and look, we had these people are killing me now. We had Doppelganger, who apparently has returned back to the planet Kolot. And we have, I'm going to try, Britt, here we go. Weltschmerz stories. Weltschmerz stories. And he is actually telling me that, he says, you are correct, Mr. Ogre. Actually, I'm from Alpha Centauri. I'm here on a 5-year visa on Earth.
Imagine the disappointment that he's come all that way and to find out that our total technological advancement, our entire evolution, both as a species and as societies, has led to the pinnacle being Justin Trudeau.
Oh, you strike at me.
Something tells me that when he gets back to the travel agent in Alpha Centauri, or Alpha Centauri as he would pronounce it, he will more than likely be asking for his money back.
Hey, Britisher, how do you say you're batshit crazy in German?
I'm not sure about...
no, the equivalent of it.
Sie sind verrückt.
Slower.
Sie sind verrückt.
Sie sind verrückt. All right, we will move on. We will move on now.
It's one of those letters with dots on top, just for those people who are curious. It's a U with 2 dots on, which is a Ü. So it's Sie sind verrückt.
Oh, batshit crazy. So there you have it, Weltschmerz. You just got it in German for you. That's what I think. The Britisher was just putting it in your.
Or to use the words of the immortal words of Obelix, of course. Die spinnen die Germanen.
Weltschmerz
will get it.
Man, German's so tough. Die Spinnen and Germanen.
Die spinnen die Germanen.
Die spinnen in der Mannen.
Die Germanen, the Germans.
Die Germanens.
Yes.
Germanens. Yeah, I should know how to say the Germans. I don't know how to say the Germans.
If Weltschmerz doesn't know Asterix, he will really, really disappoint me.
Oh, he knows what you just said. And by the way, just before we segue on this next thing, the cool deal is I've been talking to Sophane, as has Britisher. We don't want to spoil anything, but we're all very excited to get Weltschmerz stories, der Germanen, here with us. I'm trying to remember, man. That's tough. German's tough. That's guttural as hell. Here with us and to talk about, creativity in the film realm. In the film realm. I don't know how else to say it. Creativity in the what am I trying to say, Brett?
Special effects.
Yeah, there you go. I was trying to look for a cooler word, but that's I think the only way to say it. Special effects kind of stuff. Because believe it or not, I can't say too much, but Weltschmerz is actually like a muck-a-muck. He's like a muck-a-muck. It's pretty cool. Oh, so what do you say, boys? We beat the hell out of that. Can we all disagree on that? I don't think any of us agree on what that was. It's something. We can agree on that. It's something. Zero, it's something.
I think it's something older than all of us combined 5 times over.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that.
It is something insofar that it is obviously it looks like something ancient. given that it wouldn't be that far away from the Fertile Crescent, we don't really know how old it could be. We always have to keep in mind that in those days distances were considerably greater, given that people were just not mobile, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But once you are in that Middle Eastern crescent and you're not too far away from Egypt, Israel, and Mesopotamia, then things are possible when it comes to things being extremely ancient.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Extremely. And when you say extremely ancient, BC, what? What do you mean extremely ancient? You're talking about like 10,000 BC.
Well, I mean, you're looking at the beginnings of civilization as we know it in the Fertile Crescent and in Mesopotamia.
Which would be 6,000 BC.
And then, from there, you would then have to give it some time to actually reach into Saudi Arabia, so to speak. But it should be within the realm of the possible, given that Medina would not be that far away.
So, Professor Peabody, I'm going to set the Wayback Machine for a long time ago. And that said, hey, look, I got something to do here, man. It's kind of cool. Check this out. Under the shadow of the new Praetorian. Oh, thank you so much for that intro, Brett. I tell you what, it's probably the best intro that could have been made for me. And I didn't do it myself. So I'm not feeling slacking. I'm actually feeling very happy that a friend of mine did that for me. So I have a story here, boys. I'm going to work on this too, man. Eventually, when I figure out how to be able to speak and do that at the same time, it'll be so smooth and seamless that when we do our little thing, we'll have our little funky segues and be able to go to our stories. But Britisher brought it to my attention a little while ago. I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, maybe longer. I don't know. But that Bill Hicks, the immortal, the one, the only Bill Hicks, was very, very, very popular and famous in Great Britain and in the UK. And he always used to say, look, what you always hear in the news, little Johnny went out and, did 17 lines of cocaine, smoked some crack, killed his girlfriend, run his truck into a police station, blew the police station up, killed 55 cops. End of story, right? You never hear nothing good. You never hear the story that's like, little Billy took 5 hits of acid and ate 17 mushrooms and realized all at the same time that we are one organic, ecumenical organism dependent on one another for life, for sustenance, and for the well-being of art. It never happens, right? That never happened. That was all the ad lib. Now, too, I want some credit for that, you motherfuckers. It's ad lib. So, what I'm trying to say is, I have a story for you. Most people won't know this. Ecstasy, the drug, MDMA. It was created by a psychologist. Now, it was glossed over back then, but yes, he was giving it to his patients. And they were able to open up in ways they were never able to open up before. They were able to express feelings and to get over trauma and all of these terrible mental malaise that they were having. Malaise might have been the wrong word there, but all this mental trauma they were having, all this anxiety they were feeling. It's back, boys and girls. It's back. And here's the story. How MDMA went from club drug to breakthrough therapy. Now, the problem I have with this is what I sent to you all in the show map. This is something old made new again. I love to choose because I am one. It was the great and wise King Solomon that said there's nothing new under the sun. So it says, as director of addiction psychiatry at NYU Medical Center, Stephen Ross spends most of his time helping people quit drugs, but early next year, he will begin administering MDMA in his dosing room, a chamber in Dr. Ross's medical research lab that resembles a comfortable living room with a going on the wall ceramic mushrooms decorated, blah, 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 blah. This doctor is going to begin to give people ecstasy, MDMA. The reason? to help with PSTD, post-traumatic stress disorder. For some reason, and look, they even mentioned in this article Zoloft and Paxil. Listen, folks, one of the side effects of Zoloft is suicide. One of the side effects from Paxil is suicide. All of these, now it's going to slip my mind. All of these NSAID block, what are they? And not NSAID, that's aspirin. All of these drugs, all of these psychotropic drugs that the doctors tell you, oh, you have a chemical imbalance. The doctors know one thing about the brain for sure. I'm going to tell you right now. This is a fact. All of the nerves in your body, every nerve that tells you you're touched, you're hungry, that hurts, this feels good, end in your brain. Your brain. But your brain has no nerves. None. They know the chemicals that the brain produces. They know what the amygdala does. They know what the hippocampus does. They know about all of the. I could go on and bore you forever. I know a little bit about the brain, even though you might not think I do. I do. Not my own, just the brain. The universal brain well share. Zoloft and Paxil, these things. MDMA is now being rediscovered as something. Listen, folks, and now I've really got to kick it off because I realize I'm just keep stopping and I'm not making any really coherent thoughts because there's so much I want to say about this. But Britisher, did you know that Uncle Siggy was a cocaine addict? Do you know that Uncle Siggy would give cocaine to his patients? The guy that came up with the laying down and the therapist being at the head of the bed, but the patient not being able to see the therapist. It's psychotherapy. You dig it? So that word, you ever psychotherapy? That all comes from Uncle Siggy. And Uncle Siggy would break out the teener of coke, scratch out some lines. They would both do some, and it helped open up. I guess I have a point, and I'll make it after I let you boys say. What do y'all think? MDMA, ecstasy, psychotropic drug. Should this be used by psychiatrists?
Well, I don't personally see what the big deal is on that aspect. I mean, obviously, it's not going to vibrate. I'm not going to see any sort of problems on this whatsoever, simply because you've got this point where if you just do little bits and pieces, every drug is there for a particular reason. If you look for different things about MDMA, if I'm not mistaken, is actually made from a particular plant, is it not? It's not actually completely synthetic.
No, MDA is not completely synthetic. It's not completely natural. But it's not completely synthetic. You just got me, and I should know. If somebody knows in the chat, tell us where MDMA comes from. I thought it was a derivative of ayahuasca, but I may be wrong on that. But I do not think. I believe it's a chemical contrivance, much like LSD. I don't think it's something that occurs naturally in nature.
Yeah, that's fair enough. My only point was that most of the drugs that have been used, I mean, I think you were trying to touch on it. Most of the opioids are ones that normally affect the brain to the point where it's a case of people start hallucinating, people start doing all weird and wonderful things. You get some that are to do with cannabinoids and things like that, which still affects the brain, but not into the same effect. You've got things with alcohol and things like that. But if something helps you open up and it's done in a controlled environment, I don't see what the problem is.
Oh. Well, okay, I'll buy that. I will buy that. I won't even second guess that. I want to know what anybody else thinks about that. Britisher just returned it, but what do you think, Zero? You got a child. You have a young daughter. I know that she's pretty much an adult now, but I'm sure that you care about her and want to protect her now as you did when she was 2. If she had some kind of, trauma, would you be okay with a psychiatrist, using this kind of therapy?
My daughter went through quite a bit of trauma when she was a teenager because people tried to bully and ridicule her because of her lifestyle, and she never once had to take a medication because she talked to my mom, and my mom basically said, people are going to be stupid little, such and such as all the time. There's no point in taking some medication or doing any drug for you trying to get over how you feel because people are stupid. Again, it's like anything else, in moderation. I mean, there are people who smoke pot all the time, and they're some of the best people you can ever work with on the planet. And it keeps them relatively balanced, and that you take them off of it and they suck at their jobs. Again, it's like it's like anything else. As long as somebody doesn't abuse it, and I'm just going to sit back with my bucket of popcorn and wait to see if this thing blows up in his face because of the way the big pharma is around the world all over, and the hypocrisy of regional politics where he's at, and just to see if he doesn't take advantage of people.
Well, I mean,
I'll just add a little. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, this fine. I've already had my little say. You go ahead. Sir.
I mean, I would, coming in. I'm sorry if I just departed before. I had a bit of a technical problem. As such, I think there is a bit of a sort of a trend in almost revisiting some of the things that are, that are kind of knowns, but trying to see whether perhaps some new research can cast some new light on them. Because just the other week, I came across an article in the Daily Mail which basically argued that some research showed that magic mushrooms may, in inverted commas, reset the brain of depressed patients. So there also seems to be some work in that aspect going on. And we all know that there has been some experimentation in Switzerland regarding bringing heroin addicts off heroin by use of heroin rather than with methadone. So I think as the barrier towards drugs begins to kind of loosen, because I think there has been such a dogmatic barrier set up against them with the war on drugs. So as younger generations come in who are perhaps less determinedly opposed to drugs, I think we will see new angles taken with drugs, and also new research come along to kind of investigate some of the substances, regarding whether they can have any other effects, as opposed to just having a blanket, no, we won't go near these substances. So I think there may indeed be sort of an exciting time ahead whereby some of these substances may be seen in a different light, and maybe regarded as having potential uses, which hitherto we perhaps never dared explore, simply because we just wanted to write off anything that was related to these banned substances as just evil.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to make a side note here, Britisher. Isn't it basically true that when MDMA and cocaine and all that stuff originally came out, I'm not saying this is the two prime excuses for why things have gone bad, but isn't it really just since those things originally came out that food sources have changed, the way foods have been produced, and environmental changes have been drastically changed, at least within a 100-year time period, to where people, brain chemistry, body chemistry is different from their great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents, and which is why certain things don't play nice with us anymore on a certain level.
I mean, that could be. I simply, frankly, don't have enough knowledge about it, to be honest. In that area, it could be.
I would have to disagree.
That was an open-ended question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to disagree with that one, because if you look at it from people from the Industrial Revolution, and then you go back to the point of, I don't know, go to Bronze Age people instead, their brain chemistry is going to be completely different because of the facts of different processes that they go to actually learn and educate themselves. Just the fact of eating different foods in general, whether you put the additives in or not, is going to change the different chemistry that you have. So in general, our brains are going to adapt and evolve anyway. That's the process of evolution. Where people say, oh, we're still evolving. Yeah, we are still evolving. We're just evolving very slowly now.
Yeah, right. Like, see, with me, I take Paxil occasionally. I don't take it every single day. It's not meant for me to take it every day. But with my ADHD and PTSD, I drink, I basically cut out soda and all this other stuff. So I drink a pre-workout. And everybody's like, oh, that's going to jack you up and all this other stuff. But I'm actually relatively more calm and focused than if I were to drink a coffee or a Mountain Dew or none of those, because that's how my body behaves better. And I'm able to be more coherent, ask questions better, stay focused at work. And all because I'm sipping a pre-workout drink, which people would say, oh, that's bad for your heart, this is bad for you, and blah, 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 blah. In comparison to, like, you know, again, there are people who function better when they smoke weed. So I'm not going to say that this is a bad idea. It's just like, I'm a realist. Let's just be cautious about this. Let's hopefully consider that this, you know, may or may not go overboard. But everything I've stated previously, there are going to be people that demonize it, and they medically will not give it a chance because of big pharma and whatever reason.
But you know, all I can say is, man, I am so glad. And I'm not going to rail you, Zero, about Paxil, but I'm so glad if Paxil works for a bit. But reuptake inhibitors, for the most part, the funny thing is they're going to end up finding out that the shooter here at Las Vegas was taking reuptake inhibitors. They are Dylan Roof was most. What I'm trying to say is, very few people can take Zoloft or Paxil or what's the big one that these things, and it works. If it works for you, kudos.
Well,
but I'm definitely
no human body is meant to design to take medication for all that long. And when I told I'm bouncing off what I said earlier, when I told my doctor I stopped taking Paxil because I started drinking like C4 pre-workout drinks, he basically flipped out. Yeah. And I said, well, yeah. And I said, I feel more balanced and level-headed doing this than taking this meds. So we started.
He flipped out because he quit getting his kickback.
That's right. He was not getting his kickback.
Right.
And for the longest, Melrel back in the day was Paxil, and they were finding out that this is what this does and this is why this doesn't work. But real doctors, realistically, have always said, hey, look, medications that we make are not meant to be taken long-term in a human body, which is why some things cause more problems than you think, or they behave a certain way from person A to person B. That's where, like, weed or magic mushrooms or anything natural does something better that pisses the doctor off because they can't make any money from it.
Britisher, I'm going to tell you, this is something that I personally have done for years, something that I've told people works, and they laughed in my face, Britisher. And I won't say the L word again with you, you son of a bitch, but I dig you for bringing this up. Magic mushrooms may reset the brains of depressed patients. Studies show psilocybin, the psychoactive ingredient in magic mushrooms, may help reset the brain's default mode network. They're finding out now that not only psilocybin, which is, man, I mean, one of the most wonderful things you can do. Britt, I'm not even going to ask you. You've never done them. Oh, my good gracious. Britisher, if you ever get a chance, don't just take them if somebody gives them to you. Take them from them, but don't just take them. Wait till you know you're going to have a chance where you're all alone, because you're a very unique individual. You don't need anybody there with you. All alone at the park, you can ride your motorcycle, whatever you do. Chill out and be alone and take some magic mushrooms. You're going to need to know that you'll be in a good place for about 6 hours. This is one of the most wonderful things human beings can do. The stoned ape theory hypothesizes that there's a very good possibility that some Neanderthal, if y'all believe in that, I may or may not. I doubt it. I do. But we found out, oh yeah, ooh, a mushroom. And the next thing you know, he invented the wheel. Not only is it good for resetting the brains of depressed people, but it's also good for another. I don't even know. You cannot explain it if somebody hasn't done it. And I'm not saying the same thing about LSD. I've done both. I've done LSD. I've done MDMA. I've done psilocybin. MDMA and psilocybin, there's something in that substance that really, it's a key. Look, I feel like I'm being a weird druggie now.
I would not be surprised if I took that stuff and it reset my metabolism. That would be good for me because then I could lose my fat ass.
You're in Bettendorf, man. You can find some mushrooms, and I totally. If you're look, this is I can't diagnose for what I gotta say that because I studied psychology, but I got a degree, and I can't. So I gotta say this: I would never diagnose anybody. I've never been a professional psychologist. Never been paid to do anything except for counsel people in a church setting. So take for that what you will. But if you can, Zero, I highly recommend a grown man like yourself with a strong mind. Just like I won't even reiterate it. Exactly what I told the Britisher, I'd tell you. And I also would recommend to you, I would not recommend people like yourself, the Britisher, probably the common sense guy. I don't know him well enough to say this emphatically. I know you too well enough to say this emphatically. Be alone. You won't even want anybody there. When it starts to work and you start to think, you really, another person will only muddy up the waters. You'd want to be alone in a nice setting. It may not reset your metabolism.
The next thing I know, I wake up and I'm in the rafters of the local Tesco's.
You're gonna beat that Tesco
I would love
thing
to
to
take
death.
a picture of that.
You're gonna beat that Tesco thing to death, man. That's good.
But good sir, I say to you, why would you go to a Tesco's?
Well, but a person like yourself, that's not what mushrooms would do. Whatever you are is amplified. And I'm saying whatever you are at base, not angry or depressed or happy, whatever it is that you are at base. So a really scared person that's scared of everything, which no one here represented here is that. Really, those kind of people shouldn't do that kind of psychotrope. But someone that has a strong intellect and a strong mind could never do harm. I mean,
I don't think I should take that then because I would have this urge to just go plunder and raid the local Taco Bell.
Well, and now I feel like I'm being a drug apologist because I don't want to. Yeah, you're right.
Also must point out the tremendous possibilities at universities. Particularly because the first drug story that we looked at there about MDMA, the word was used in the article to de-traumatize people. And in universities these days, of course, we have that many traumatized people who have been, forced to study law and learn about rape law and things like that, and end up then claiming that their safe space has been invaded and that they are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, that you would have the feeling that should this sort of treatment become commonplace, then you can't help but feel that, half of US universities and more than about a third of ours would have to be put through this treatment and suffer their de-traumatization.
Yeah. Indeed, what more could we want? We all want de-traumatization. I mean, you know what? We do, don't we? Look,
after I read that Trudeau article, I needed de-traumatizing.
Keep bringing it up. And I'll tell you what. Now, Justin Trudeau, the funny thing is I got this little meme. I know Zero liked it. It's Captain Marvel with her fingers over her gigantic boobie making a heart. And he showed a picture of Justin Trudeau like this, with his heart. And he was like, oh, I just love everybody and whatnot. And I sent him that as a response because he was, the academic agent, if I didn't say his name. The academic agent he's no fan of Justin Trudeau. I think it's fair to say that.
Yes, I don't think you're. I don't think you're misrepresenting the academic agent. when you describe him as not a fan of Justin Trudeau's. Yes.
No, I watch his stuff all the time, and he got me, man. He was like, I can't even do his voice. He's got that weird, strange accent. But he was saying, I don't really retweet people's stuff. Oh, excuse me, he said, I don't really like people's stuff because if I comment on it on Twitter, you know that I liked it. And if I retweeted it, obviously I liked it. So I'm looking, and he doesn't. I don't think he's ever liked a tweet. I've looked, and I don't think he's ever liked a tweet. And so once in a while, man, I'm at his stuff, and I'm hovering over the heart thing on Twitter. I'm like, oops, and I'll say something. What a guy, though. What a guy. I don't know how it worked out that all of the people that I kind of admire and look up to and enjoy being around are British, but I'm sure that the Britisher will tell me now why that is.
It's just due to the innate superiority of our civilization. You're welcome.
Yeah, I told you he would tell us. Yes, of course. It's because Great Britain is Great Britain. Why do you why do you think they called it that?
Well, actually, if I just may, there are a few people who somehow think that we called ourselves Great Britain because it was somehow some kind of grandiose sentiment on our part that we're great. That isn't actually the case. It goes back to the Normans. You have to consider that when William the Conqueror took over the country, he basically then controlled most of what we now know as Britain, as Great Britain. But as the Duke of Normandy, he was also in charge of what is Brittany, or in French, La Bretagne. So he had a Bretagne that was effectively the island, and he had a little bit of land in France that was La Bretagne. So effectively what he ended up with is calling one Little Britain and the other one Great Britain. And that's how we ended up with La Grande Bretagne.
You just ruined it for me. That actually ruined it for me, Britisher. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I just thought, a little bit of reality injected would kind of... I thought because, there was never a time when Britain somehow grandiosely decided we are that great, we'll now call ourselves Great Britain from now on.
Yeah, that's not very British, is it? It really isn't. It's like mediocre Britain, they would say.
It just wouldn't be cricket.
You sons of bitches do that on purpose. It's like, oh, really? We're just a bunch of British people over here. Nothing to see here. And then the Germans attack you and you stomp them into the ground, I mean, it's very British to be understated because you want to blindside people. It's like when they least expect, it's like, oh, what a nice guy the British is. I'm just having a Twitter chat with him. And next thing you know, he kicks you in the face. He right in the teeth. It's very British. Good show.
Well, no wonder everyone then thinks you want to leave and never be back on YouTube again.
I give up. I surrender. Oh, I don't know, boys. We got like one or two stories, but I think that it was Common Sense Guy pointing out we're hard on 3 hours, gentlemen. This has really been a hell of a stream today. It went by very, very quickly to me. It seems like we are just in the first hour, but I haven't been paying much attention to the time. Usually I do. But yeah, I mean, y'all know we've been going on this for 2 hours and 46 minutes. Rocking and rolling, man.
Yes, good. I think it may be a good idea to slowly wrap things up.
Yeah. We had a couple other things. And just for y'all's edification, look into a story that I will just send out into the chat area. They're going to start using drones in LA. We don't really need to talk about it much. I don't think the British people give two shits about what they're doing in Los Angeles, California. I mean, right? Who do you care? I mean, they could fall off into the Pacific Ocean. Are you sure?
I mean, the BBC pretty much are reporting on Harvey Weinstein 24/7, and I believe that is in that part of the world, is it not?
And that's exactly what you want them to do, Britt? That's my point. That's what you want to hear?
No, one would actually quite like to hear some real news once in a while.
Yeah. So remember, I'm not talking about the BBC. I'm talking about the British Shore, which is you and your lot. And I don't think, I mean, just like me, do you think that I want to hear one more frickin' word about Harvey Weinstein from my beloved Tucker Carlson?
Yeah, I think we would be much more interested in hearing about things like Kirkuk.
Yeah, yes.
You know, because we didn't really hear a lot about that until eventually we were told that the Kurds had retired. For some reason, they don't seem to be very interested in telling us about the areas which we so successfully pacified, apparently, in Iraq, now fighting with each other. But that's another story. Sorry, I'm being cynical and going completely off track again.
No, I'll have to put that on the top of the show map on Friday when we're at the Britisher channel. I just want everyone here to encourage the Britisher, if you can, to turn his super chat on, because I am being bluntly and perfectly honest. The Britisher will back me up at the end of the month when it actually happens, and every penny that comes from super chat will go to the Britisher. Because right now, I'm not. Look, it's going to sound. I'm going to try to say this as least braggadocious as I can. My wife gets 8 weeks paid off a year. She makes $25 an hour. I don't work because I don't have to, because I've already made enough money in my life. I shouldn't laugh like that because that does sound braggadocious. I don't work because I don't have to. I will probably never do a hand's turn of work again unless it's on my farm for my own self, again, as long as I live. And so that said, I mean, and I'm not taking away from the super chats. They rock. They rock. But if I was the one to take them, I would buy beer and Skittles. And, you know, and there would be nothing done. So we really appreciate it. And I just want to encourage everybody that hears me, because my friend is so hard to bang a thought into his head. He's very, 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 very thick-headed. And that's a good thing, because he's got all them smarts to keep in there. You don't want them leaking out. But please encourage the Britisher to continue this on Friday, because whereas we so much appreciate the band of brothers and sisters that are here helping us out here today, Brett, you can't deny that band is much larger on Fridays. And it would be nice if you and the Common Sense Guy and myself, don't get me wrong, whatever comes from this, even if I don't get, if the Britisher at the end of the month don't give me a dime, if he's like, well, really, Mr. Ogre, you have plenty of money, go fuck yourself, sir. You know, that's fine with me. That's absolutely fine with me. Because in the end, what I desire is for my brothers to be able to be compensated for their work, so that it is something that they want to continue to do. That's my pay. My pay is that the Britisher and the Common Sense Guy can carry on doing what they do with me 3 days a week. 9 hours usually a week we give you. So look, that's the end. I said that before, Britt, I wasn't going to say much about Super Chat, but I did have to make an apologia for the reason it's here. And I do want you to turn your Super Chat on, Brett, on for Fridays. And the reason why is because you, sir, Common Sense, y'all deserve it. Do I deserve it? It's questionable. I don't know. I have no idea. So it's for someone else, and I don't need it. But you two, you deserve it. You work hard, and hopefully that'll be on Friday. If it's not on Friday, you know, whatever. So I took all that time. Now what I've done is the Britisher, I'm really going to get it tomorrow on Twitter, and I can see it coming now. I don't know what it's going to be about, but I'm really going to get it. But I do thank you too. I do thank you too, Brett, because of everyone that I know online, you are the only human being that I would trust with this, even as small as it is now, because I think big. Y'all here, I believe that you're the start of something huge. I think that if us three stick with it, one day we'll have a show. It could be the exact same show in 10 years, or we could have a gigantic audience. Whatever it is, I hope that we can continue to do it. It means a lot to me. So boom, boy, that was so sappy. It's my anniversary. What do you want from me, man? I'm thinking about all these things, you know, in my head, and all these emotional, you know, I'm getting on, you know what it is. So yeah, we'll probably wrap it up now. We'll leave off the last story. It wasn't important. And unless one of my esteemed British colleagues has something Britannia to bring up, we'll move on to our last words. Do y'all have any kind of British story, anything UK that we need to know over here in the Wayward Colonies?
Not to my knowledge.
Not that I can think of right now. No,
there you go.
We had Prime Minister's Question Time, and it was dead boring. And we had a bunch of sycophants standing up, and the Common Sense Guy will know exactly what I mean. Asking those famous questions does my right honourable friend agree with me that, and then wasting another 2 or 3 minutes of parliamentary time by just asking some extremely obsequious question? I'm afraid that is one of the ways in which our parliamentary democracy works, and at times you just wish that Guy Fawkes would have succeeded.
Brett, I watched the question and answer. Yeah, it was a debauch. It really was. When you say sycophant, I mean there's no better words for what I watched there. They were fawning. That's another way to put it. Very fawning. And I don't know what is there to fawn over before we do close it out, boys. Because I want to hear from both of you on this too. Tell me what is good about your prime minister, Britisher.
Nothing.
Anything. Okay. Common sense.
No, hang on.
Okay, yeah.
Not Jeremy Corbyn.
I thought you were stopping because you actually had a speech to give, but that was good. That was good. So I will ask the same question before we go on to our final words. I'll ask the same question, common sense guy.
I mean, she's, to me, kind of the story of what people are as a generalization. Sometimes you perceive somebody to be as rock solid, as strong and stable as any government should or shouldn't be. And then you get the actual crux of what the inner core is of a person. And even though that she has stumbled, she has fallen, she has almost been kicked down to the curb at every sort of turn or tread by everybody. And I'm not particularly a big fan, but one thing I have to say about it is she keeps on getting up. And you can't take that away from her.
More's the pity.
Sorry?
More's the pity. Yes.
Yeah. But she keeps on getting back up. Whether she's getting pulled up by the party or whether she's getting up all by herself, that's debatable. But she keeps on getting back up and she keeps on putting herself in front of that newsreel, in front of those people, and keeps on doing what she's supposed to do. Now, to me, I don't think you can epitomise Britishness any better than what that lady has done at this moment in time. I've fucked up, but I'm going to carry on doing my job.
Oh, dear God.
I was going to say, Britisher, you have seniority, so please rebut.
Theresa May is supposed to be a living symbol of what Britain is today, then heaven help us.
Oh, God.
I did not mean that it was a living symbol. I said she epitomizes what it is to be British, as in the dogmatic view of I'm going to carry on regardless.
And people think Donald Trump's a pain in the rear end.
Yeah, and Britisher, once again, you have...
his golf is too good.
Yeah, well, Brett, once again, before we go all off, and because we're going to give our final words here, boys, but once again, Brett, you have seniority here over all of us, except for, no, I think we're equal. So you have seniority here. Any final words on that? Some kind of eloquent words that would maybe tell us what a real Britisher is and maybe why she doesn't qualify?
No, I think I'll pass on that. Okay. I would need considerably more time to think about that. But
no worries.
All I know is that I will never forgive that woman the run and hide leaflets.
No, I could hear it in your voice when you said, "Oh man, no." No, the offspring of Nelson? No, I don't think so. So anyway, that's the way it goes. And I Zero, you've been around long enough that I don't feel bad about just springing this on you. We're going to give our last words now. Doesn't matter what it's about. Could be about a story we covered today. Could be about a story that you think about years ago. Zero, I want to thank you very much too. To my British friends, sometimes, and I don't mean the British friends here, but to my British friends, meaning 70% of the people watching us, you're very American, apparently more American than I. But today, you are very British, and for that, I thank you so much, Zero. I would like to have you on as often as possible. You always bring a ray of sunlight into my life. But here we go. Giving you enough time, we're going to go our last wrap-up words. We think of this time as sacred. We like to not talk over anybody in any way while they're delivering their final words or even comment on those words afterwards. So if that's enough information, Zero, cool. We'll go from you to common sense guy to the Britisher, and then finally, last and definitely most of all, least myself.
I really don't have much to say today. Thank you for figuring out how to turn down my microphone. It's actually on my end is perfect, but I understand that everybody might hear me louder, so it's a good thing you tuned it down on your end. Really, the whole thing with the Saudi Arabia bit and the ancient civilization is, with the way the planet changes all the time in regards to when man changes the environment, or the environment shifts doing this and doing that, it really wouldn't surprise me if it's just like ancient Sumerian or something, and then it just got embedded in rock or buried under a sandstorm and that kind of stuff. And it also really wouldn't surprise me if the government over there wants to keep stuff under wraps, because it will, if anything came out about it that they didn't like, it would cause more problems for them than we need, and that it would basically deflate that basic region for its religious context, and then everything would do a 180 to where it is from now. That wouldn't surprise me one so bit.
Thank you so much, Zero Cool. You had all the time that you want, sir, and we hope to have you back soon. And yeah, now that you made it public, it's not that you have a bad voice. You have a very powerful voice. I've been told that, but I can't hold a candle to you, sir. So thank you very much for showing up today. Wonderful last words.
Thank you.
To be honest, I don't really have much to say today. The only thing I'd probably have to say on this point is, you look at the stories that are around us, and Ogres touched on it quite a lot today. So the fact where the news just doesn't sell good news anymore. It's not a case of little Johnny from the Boy Scouts, and that's a whole nother story, but we'll miss that one. But Johnny from the Scouts has decided he's going to take an old lady across the road and things like that. And not that it should get reported in the national news. I'm not saying that. I'm using it as a very, very bland and obvious point. But those type of things do not get reported anymore. There is no good news in the world anymore. Everything seems to be bad news. Bad news sells. But in actual fact, good news actually always sells better than bad news, because we all want to feel good about ourselves. And if we see somebody that's doing something good for other people, then we want to do good for other people as well. But if we see bad in the world, we naturally gravitate to going, well, I don't care. Everybody else is horrible. Why should I give a shit? And I think that's where we're going wrong nowadays. We keep on going down to a point of darkness rather than actually just trying to reiterate what the actual news is. We're trying to say that this is going to be really bad, this is going to be really bad, and every 2 months there's another, or even worse than that, every 2 weeks there's another disaster that's on the horizon. Donald Trump's going to kill the world by not going to the Paris summit. Theresa May is going to completely destroy Brexit because she's incompetent. Just every now and again, it just seems that there's so many different disasters that are on the horizon. There's nothing ever good about it. Now, I'm not trying to say that these people are good or these people are bad. It's just a case of, in general, there are so many good things that, well, maybe not in Theresa May's case, but in some cases, there are so many people that do good things in the world. And we don't tell their story anymore. We don't tell little Johnny's story anymore. We don't tell the story who's somebody who's got $5,000 out of the bank to decide that they're going to build a boxing gym so they can take people off the streets anymore. We don't do the good stories anymore. We don't follow the charity cases anymore. We give them awards in little back corners of our nation's superheroes and things like that. And we shouldn't be doing that. We should be promoting their stories to show that the people in the world that there is good in the world. Because as soon as you start showing people that there isn't any good, they naturally go down the road as, what's the point? I think I'm going to leave that there.
Okay. Well, my final word, I guess I would like to just, to a certain extent, it was amusing. It all began with about 2 days ago, I had a bit of a back spasm. And that meant I kind of had to minimize my time in front of the PC, which meant I spent a lot of time lying on the sofa, which invariably means that my Twitter account, my Twitter activity gets somewhat more vivid, which is more than likely something that the ogre has observed in this past 24 hours. And I just had, shortly before I came on, I was having a bit of a ding-dong with the ogre, if only just to entertain myself, because the television is only so and so interesting. But at the same time, I was also having a ding-dong with someone else. And when it came to the ogre, we were talking about various crime statistics and whatever. And when I was talking to this other person, I was talking about free speech, because this person was objecting to Richard Spencer being allowed to speak at some university in Florida. I believe they've had some call for a state of emergency because of it, which is almost a joke in itself. But when it comes to that particular case, this person was clearly arguing that he was doing nothing else but spreading hate. He shouldn't be allowed to speak, and so on. So my questioning that, of course, immediately put me in a bracket as far as that particular person was concerned. So I was quite enjoying myself speaking to both the ogre and to this person, because you see, I was enjoying the delight of a particular aspect, and that was that the ogre knows full well what I'm speaking about here, that he was somewhat jokingly referring to me as an SJW, because of my position on crime and guns. Meanwhile, simultaneously, at the very same time, someone else was referring to me as a white supremacist, because I was apparently the backer of Richard Spencer. So that was, I therefore I must have been at that particular moment in time, I must have been the only person on the planet who was simultaneously an SJW and a white supremacist, which you can imagine I was milking for my own enjoyment for some considerable time, without either party being aware of the other, so to speak. So that may explain one or two things to the ogre. It definitely had me in considerable fits at times, because yes, when you get these messages coming in simultaneously, it can well, to quote Ken Dodd, it can tickle you. Yes,
much like a feather duster.
And it definitely did in that particular case. But I just find it remarkable, on perhaps a bit more serious note, how if these days just, how it can be that these days just the act of questioning something can effectively place you in a camp regarding, when it comes to the views of some people. So, I mean, I don't like Richard Spencer, but frankly, I don't think I need to say that. Just the fact that somebody says this person shouldn't be allowed to talk, and then I start engaging that person and start saying, well, why not? Why shouldn't this person be allowed to talk? Then just simply that question in itself to that person meant I'm a sympathizer. And that, I think, is one of those tendencies in today's society, and particularly in the discourse online. And no, I'm not referring to the ogre and myself. We know full well what we mean seriously and what we don't. But when it comes to those sort of things, how is it that people can't even question something? I mean, I had some interesting comments also regarding the week that was, in which some people were really agitated about my commenting on Donald Trump. And they let me know about it. But in their same comment, they then also told me that they agreed with my criticism of Hillary Clinton. And you just think, what is it they can't see? What is it that I can see that they cannot? That I am in a way capable of seeing the flaws on both sides without necessarily wanting to feel superior towards those sides, but just that you can actually see that at times there is true silliness on both sides. But they will, even when they have got both things presented to them side by side, they will nonetheless be completely colorblind on one side and only be able to see the flaws in the other. And I just find that, and at the same time then, this will lead them to conclude that the person who is telling them this must be partisan, because even though he criticized both sides, he criticized their dear leader, and therefore he must be partisan and must be evil. And it is that sort of thinking that I just don't comprehend. At times, I think I've already said this to the ogre once or twice, at times I feel almost a bit autistic. That there's almost as if there is some part of the human experience that I just don't get. Because when it comes to exchanges like that, I simply can't understand them. I don't understand why my simply asking a question should suddenly make me a white supremacist. And I don't understand how my criticizing Hillary Clinton should suddenly make me a misogynist. Or my making a joke about Donald Trump's golf should suddenly render me someone who hates the United States of America and everything she stands for. You know, it's those sort of things where you just think, folks, just relax a bit, why don't you? Anyway, over to you, Mr. Ogre.
Thank you so much, Britisher. It's been a great night, and I'm going to start out not by pressing my brother, as I will when we go offline, to turn on his super chat, but by saying, folks, the British and I, we're kindred spirits. We seem very different to you all. And we are very different in a lot of ways, but there's definitely one way we're extremely similar, and that is it's that invisible something that runs up a man's back. It's that intangible thing that forces a man to get up in the morning, even when his back is bothering him. It's that unattainable virtue that real men often strive for. And yes, I'm talking about myself and my friend, the Britisher. I'm unabashedly saying that those things apply to us. And so before I say my last word, we thank you from the bottom of our heart. It's difficult for us, even though we see, Tucker Carlson making millions of dollars a year, and I'm sure the Britisher looks at that and says, really? It's like, wow, but I could do that. Sometimes I feel the same way. I could do that. And so before my last word, which is now, we just want to thank you once again. Even if I decide to quit YouTube 5 days ago, as is the rumor, we thank you so much for being here in the beginning, for being a part of this thing. And what is this thing? I'll say a small piece about that. What it is three gentlemen coming together. And yeah, sometimes we have Zero Cool with us or some other random person. But what it is really is the common sense guy, the Britisher, and the Ogre, just bringing you a balance of ideas. And it would take me so long, and I'm looking at the clock now. I've got to keep my final words down. I can't let them go and drone on forever and ever. If you want to hear me drone on forever, come and see one of the live streams I do when my co-hosts are here. You'll be able to hear me talk ad nauseum. So to wrap up this first little part is, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Soda Rock, Captain Coal Pile, all that donated tonight. You don't know, you can't know the affirmation that you gave us by doing that. And I don't want to take away from those of you that just say thank you. We really appreciate that, dude. So here you go. My final word. Once in a while, once in a blue moon, it's very rarely, you find yourself wondering how it is that you were so unbelievably gifted and fortunate. I don't mean gifted, able to play a Stradivarius and angelic tones. I don't mean gifted and can shoot a basketball from half. I mean gifted as in I have a beautiful wife. My house here that you see. I mean, look, I got guitars just hanging on my walls. And you know what? Sometimes I find myself, oh, poor me. Woe is me. Buck up, little soldier. I can pluck any number of these guitars off the wall and play it, plug it into any number of amps. I can get on my drums and beat them. I can go drive my Mercury. I can go out and walk my property and look at my garden. What is it in man that makes him not want to be content with what he has? That's my question to myself today on my 24th anniversary, being married to the most wonderful human being that God ever created. What would it take for me to be content? Do I blame it on the news that's being bombarded left and right? We talked about that. Is it Tucker Carlson's fault? Is it, do I blame it on, what do I blame it on? We have contentment within ourselves. We have one person. I'm going to get a little pompous here. I'm being pompous for all of us here, not for me. We have one person to thank if we're content in who we are and what we are, and that's ourselves. I beg you, I implore you. I want you to look inside of yourself and see that beautiful and wonderful thing that is you today. Not what other people want you to be, God forbid. What you want to be. Today, I want each and every one of you listening to me to go out and cuss out that person you want to cuss out. To hold that person you want to hold, to kiss that person you want to kiss, to love that person you want to love. And above all, to love yourself. If you don't love yourself, you can't follow the advice I just gave you. And like I said, I'd like to go on a little longer, but I can see that my 5 minutes is up. Constant viewer, I want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, and I will only speak for the Britisher now, but I'll speak for him, and he'll cuss me later if I'm wrong. But you mean more to us than we thought you would. We don't know all of you by name. We couldn't greet 99.9% of you on the street because we noticed your face. That's why I think the love we have for you is so deep. The respect and the admiration. You're an anonymous conglomerate of humanity that appreciates us for what we are. And my last word is, the Britisher and I, we appreciate you for what you are. And be good to your friends. Be good to your family members. For God's sake, be good to your loved ones. Be quick to say you're sorry. Be even quicker to accept an apology, especially when that thing your friend, your family member, your loved one has said seems to be so huge you'll never be able to forget about it. Because constant viewers, at a time you think not, your friends, your family members, your loved ones, your life, everything you know and hold dear will depart from you.